Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 regular meeting of the Ann Arbor Planning Commission. My name is Donnell Weich and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. For detailed information on meeting procedures, please review the full printed meeting agenda provided at each end of the dais. Manager Kelly, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely, noting that Commissioner Lee was expected to be absent with advance notice. Weich.
Here.
Abrams.
Here.
Hammerschmidt.
Here.
Dish.
Here.
Mills.
Here.
Weatherby.
Here.
Adams.
Here.
Norton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Commissioner Abrams. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 16th, 2025 meeting? Moved by Commissioner Dish, seconded by Commissioner Weatherby. Is there any discussion of the minutes? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next up are the reports to the Planning Commission and written communications. We usually start with Councilmember Dish. Are you ready, Councilmember Dish?
I am, because there may have been things on the consent agenda, which Mix Kelly can remind us of, but in the regular business, nothing planning related was voted on last night.
I don't have any additions to the council business. For the manager report tonight, I just wanted to clarify some items about tonight's agenda. You can see a timeline, just a refresher that is on the screen right now. Tonight, the Planning Commission will decide whether to forward the third comprehensive plan draft to City Council to start a minimum 63-day review period. This period would notify public agencies and surrounding municipalities that we are accepting their input. That's according to the state statute. If the Planning Commission forwards the draft, it's scheduled to go to City Council on October 20th. To be approved, the plan would have to go through the minimum review period. It would have to have a public hearing and final vote with the Planning Commission, and then it would have a final vote with Council. So a final vote on this plan would not happen until no earlier than February or March of next year. So just to clarify for those who may be curious about what tonight's vote means, it would be a recommendation to start that state required review period to the City Council. During the review period, public comment would continue to be received, and that would be through what we call the hub. You can find this at engage.a2gov.org, and we will have information. We have information about that in tonight's packet, looking at the PowerPoint, the slide deck, and we'll also have a QR code just for the sake of convenience on the screen later tonight. Anything to add? That concludes the manager report.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. Do other commissioner, officers, or committee liaisons have anything to report? Yep. Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Thank you. ORC met, guys help me, was it last week? Was it the week before? We met 2 weeks ago. Primarily discussed the signage for projects that were not, yeah, you know what I mean. The signage requirements that we are talking about putting in front of projects so people know that they're coming and know how to give feedback before it comes to us. I thought you'd be excited about that, Commissioner Weich.
I am. Thank you for your report. Are there any other reports? Written communications are in today's packet. And with that, we move to public comment. So we have a public comment period that will be available for folks to address the Planning Commission for up to 3 minutes. I I think it's just, we only have one thing listed on the agenda tonight, so I won't read the second part. And so there are 3 indicators on the podium. There's a green light, that means you're good to go. There's a yellow light, it means start to wrap up. And then there's a red light. It means please stop talking and allow someone else to speak. And because there are a lot of you that are here tonight, we'd love to hear from all of you, so it would help us if everyone would respect the indicators as we have them here. If you have any questions, you can ask those questions. I will see if I can make an answer, but generally, the commission just listens to your public comments. We do not respond directly. After we have a public comment period, there is a period if commissioners would like to reply to anything that they have heard. All right, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm sorry, Manager Kelly, but is there any questions right now before we get started about the process? Okay, go ahead.
We just actually answer a question if we ask it?
It depends. If there's an answer to be had, a commissioner may pick it up. Because we do want to try to make sure that you get the information that you want. That's our goal. We will not do it during your public comment, however. So if you ask us a question during your public comment, we will not reply. We'll write it down, and then after public comment, that will be when we would address it. Does that make sense? Okay. I'll take one more question before Manager Kelly turns off my microphone. All right, we are glad that you are here, and we are eager to hear what you have to say. Let me read the script. We will first hear from those of you who are present in the chamber. Then we will hear from remote participants. To speak remotely, please press *9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if you are using Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if using Zoom. You will hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in the chambers or online, please state your name and your address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone in the chamber who would like to speak at this time? Excellent. Kick us off.
Good evening. Kami Potakuchi, Ward 5. Thank you very much. I want to say that I support the comprehensive plan revisions and want to express my deep gratitude to you and everyone else who's worked diligently and carefully for this revision. Specifically with respect to the missing middle and affordable unsubsidized housing, I would like you to see ADUs as an important solution and explore ways to address challenges related to cost and financing. Thus, in the implementation matrix for 1.2 missing middle housing, I urge you to add this item. Within the next 1 to 3 years, explore a community ADU development approach that brings together 3 or more homeowners within a particular neighborhood, similar to the community solar approach to enable efficient ADU development. And this could include working with an emerging network of developers and contractors, and it also might include a set of pre-approved plans that are contextual to our neighborhoods. Those last elements are already in the implementation matrix. For 1.5, coordination with local and regional partners, I suggest adding this following item, and this could take us longer time span to develop within the next 3 to 6 years. I suggest convening large employers in the city to set up a joint affordable housing fund to support an ADU ecosystem in which older, house-rich employees or retirees of these employers can be helped to develop ADUs, also in tandem with the other elements in the housing section of the implementation matrix that includes, working with an emerging network of developers and contractors and a set of pre-approved plans. I am personally and professionally interested in this type of infill housing by enlisting existing homeowners to help meet the housing needs of workers that serve our community, and I'm happy to serve as a resource in these efforts. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. One thing I've neglected to indicate is if you can keep any private or side conversations to a minimum while in the chamber, we can actually hear them, and it distracts us from hearing from the person who's at the podium. If they are distracting, we'll ask the speaker to suspend, and then I will ask you to cease your conversation so that we can give our full attention to who's at the podium. Does that seem all right for everybody? Yes. You willing to do that? Okay, it ensures that we can hear from everyone.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Gabe Grossman. I live on Elizabeth Street in Ward 4. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Student Housing Coalition, a partnership between the ACLU, the Michigan Institute for Progressive Policy, College Democrats, the Intercooperative Council, and the Public Interest Research Group. Like much of America, we are struggling with affordability. The homes we live in rent from anywhere from $15,000 a year for a small studio to hundreds of thousands of dollars for a house. While too often being treated like slums, landlords pack in as many students as they can, avoid fair taxes, and let their properties fall apart. No wonder students also treat them like slums. Downtown, there's no affordable grocery store, there aren't enough places to gather, to build community, to simply be. That's not just unfortunate, it's a predictable result of how we've chosen to use our land. So little of it is spent on what makes life worth living. Instead, acres upon acres are paved over for transportation, roads, parking lots, driveways, and the second biggest waste is for the mandated grass lawns, scattered, fenced, and fragmented, too often too broken up to offer real community green space where people can meet, rest, and reconnect with nature. Instead of homes, we've built holding spaces for cars, and that's why every student neighborhood has a parking crater in the middle of it. And we act like we have no choice, even though 100 years ago, Ann Arbor had a full streetcar network, comfortably moving people without massive garages or endless pavement. And yet our current comprehensive plan doesn't even mention that in the history, and only mentions public transit in the appendix. We know we can build better because we already have. Look at Carytown's hidden courtyard surrounded by local businesses and row homes. It's beautiful, it's beloved, and under today's zoning, it's banned. Right now, only the biggest developers can afford to build through those restrictions. And that's why we get some big, boxy buildings instead of beautiful missing middle housing and green spaces that we can enjoy. That's why I am here to support what we have already done with the comprehensive plan and to push forward. If we want to see a city that sustains us, we need to legalize it. We need to legalize building roofs over people's heads. We need to legalize community. We need to legalize shared parks, walkable streets, and public transit that people actually want to ride. That's because the city works for people, all people. It's not just possible, and it really is within reach. All we have to do is choose it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary Durfee, 1052 Olivia, 3rd Ward. I'd like to speak to the section on infrastructure, specifically pages 90 and 91. I have expressed my concerns about infrastructure to you on multiple occasions. I'm aware that large construction projects, such as high-rises around South U, must replace current infrastructure to increase capacity. However, I am concerned about more incremental issues across the city. At a 3rd Ward coffee hour in March of this year, Mr. Jordan Roberts mentioned ongoing evaluations of Ann Arbor underground utilities. I'm assuming that that work is ongoing and that the city is aware of neighborhoods in which groundwater or sewer systems are at or near capacity. Given that, I had hoped that more neighborhood capacity would have been addressed in the current draft. Upon reviewing it, I was somewhat disappointed. There is a sentence stating that the following, quote, "Any implementation of this plan must carefully align with analysis and projections of infrastructure investment needs and coordinate zoning with capital improvement planning," end quote. I would like, however, to feel confident that capacity of neighborhoods, not just the city at large, has been evaluated and that zoning and/or permitting will not get ahead of that capacity. For example, if a given neighborhood or sewer system or water has the capacity for usage by 100 more residents, I would hope that any upzoning allowing single-family homes to be replaced by larger structures that could house more than 100 people would not occur without increasing that capacity or upgrading that capacity. That is, infrastructure should be improved before zoning changes are made rather than waiting until after sewer systems overflow into residents' basements. Specific language in the plan stating that upzoning will wait until infrastructure is ready, not just by the city but by small neighborhoods, would be reassuring. Finally, the map on page 91 for some reason focuses on placement of resilience centers. Perhaps this is where residents go when the sewers back up. In keeping with other maps in the plan, which are all excellent, it would be more informative if this map could instead show the degree of additional densification that the existing infrastructure can support in each of Ann Arbor's neighborhoods or areas. For example, 10% more, 50% more, what can be accommodated in that particular area. This would give us better sense as to what parts of the city are best suited or best poised for densification, and whether parts of the city most desired to be densified are ready. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Juskevich, and I live on Las Vegas Drive in the Dickin neighborhood of the 4th Ward. First off, I'd like to thank Dr. Strongman for the delicious cookies and all the other folks who brought snacks. It really builds community when we can come together and share food. Rather than optics of coziness, I think it creates an atmosphere of coziness. And isn't that what neighbors are all about? After almost 3 years of healthy, robust civic process, extensive and inclusive public input, 3 drafts, and quite a bit of delay to accommodate even more input, we are finally approaching the home stretch. While I am sure none of us are seeing absolutely everything we want to see in this newest draft, I think it is to be expected when there are so many different opinions in the room. Nonetheless, I believe you have done an admirable job distilling Council's priorities, your own opinions, and those of the community into a vision for the growth of Ann Arbor over the next 25 years. It's great to see a plan that supports abundant housing, strives to repair some of the problems with mid-20th century suburban development patterns, eliminates exclusionary single-family zoning, and aims to create a vision for an equitable, sustainable, affordable, and dynamic Ann Arbor for all. This draft supports those goals, and I believe it is ready to move it along to City Council to begin the 63-day review period. I want to thank all of you, the staff, the consultants, and the members of the community who have come together to provide their stories and positive visions for the future. This work is just starting, and we all need to stay involved and follow through as we move into implementation. Thank you for affording me the time to speak to you tonight.
Thank you.
Kim Winnick, 3rd Ward, Ann Arbor. I have a little story to tell which may displease some people. Our mayor and city council are a political machine that receives substantial campaign support from financial interests lying outside the city. These interests advocate for an extreme pro-growth agenda in the city. This city council, without any input from the public, proposed a massive rezoning, including the elimination of all single-family zoning, to achieve their pro-growth agenda. The mayor, with the agreement of city council, handpicked the planning board members to execute their agenda. The Planning Commission subsequently hired a planning firm at a cost approaching $1 million in taxpayer money to draft a new comprehensive land plan to guide future development in the city. The goals of this plan were directly conveyed to this firm by our elected and appointed city officials with little to no input from the residents. The residents of the city were never fully informed of these developments. Requests that the residents of the city be notified by a letter included with either their city or city tax bill or water bill were ignored. Instead, a variety of public meetings were held that drew only a fraction of the city's residents. The initial justification proffered by our elected officials in support of a massive rezoning of the city were to make Ann Arbor more affordable. Even though many high-rises and other buildings have since popped up in the city, the price to purchase a home or rent an apartment has only increased. Gentrification has occurred on a grand scale. Some city officials now admit that the proposed zoning changes may not bring the price of housing down, but may only slow the cost increases. Now, how committed is the city to affordable housing? Apparently not very much. City-owned property that was supposed to be developed for this purpose is now offered to developers for market-rate housing. Some funds of a millage that voters passed for affordable housing have been diverted to other city uses, such as a new election center. One of our city council members, and I believe a member of the planning board, Lisa Dish, lied on record about the details of this transaction, and you can watch the video if you don't believe me. Attempts to curb Airbnbs in the city, which take away from permanent housing from residents, have been watered down. The city has also made concessions to a twice-convicted felon for financial crimes with 3 different names to develop unaffordable housing units. Furthermore, one of these developments has resulted in the destruction of about 10 older homes to be replaced by more expensive units. I assume that the demolished remnants of these homes will end up in some landfill. Obviously, the much talked about sustainability that our city officials tout is not a key issue for them either. Unfortunately, the residents of Ann Arbor are largely uninformed and in many cases uninterested in our city government. We have an elected leadership that has lied and gaslit us, behaved unethically, and done its best to mislead the public with their performative progressive agenda. Unfortunately, their agenda is not progressive at all. I'm extremely disappointed, and you, the electorate, should be too. The process is important. We can debate policy, but this process is highly flawed in the city.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Crockett, and I live at 506 East Kingsley. I would like to thank Susan Kaufman and Dan Rubenstein for an email they sent to you outlining the many benefits of historic preservation. And I quote, "Peer cities are centering historic districts in their land use plan, recognizing that they give cities not only significant economic benefits, but also a sense of place and unique identity. Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Madison, Portland, Boulder, and Minneapolis embrace historic districts, as well as historic properties and neighborhoods. Interestingly, none of these benefits is included in the current version of this club. I wonder why. Quoting a statement from the Minneapolis Club, it is critical for public engagement to include all interested groups in the preservation process, especially those whose history has been marginalized and whose places suffer deliberate disinvestment and removal. Minneapolis will work to ensure that residents of all cultures and backgrounds will have access to preservation resources while experiencing the economic, socio-cultural, and emotional benefits of preservation. The city will use the feedback from this engagement to help identify and preserve buildings, landscapes, and other places important to the city's heritage. Additionally, the city will recognize and actively promote the intrinsic value of historic places as integral to the city's evolving environment. Please include this statement in the historic preservation statement on page 60. You need to be aware that homes in the once historically black neighborhoods on North 4th, North 5th, north of East Kingsley are particularly at risk due to the projected transition district in this area. I have no idea why this district was included. Please explain. One way to protect these homes would be to create an historic district for this area, but at the very least, we should be documenting the history of these homes and strive to save them from demolition. That would be a demonstration of the equity you hope to achieve with this comprehensive land use plan. Thank you for consideration for that. But in closing, I would like to say I'm very disturbed about the provision of food. I sent you an email about this, and it's by one of the political factions in this group. For you to accept this food is a problem, and I'm not sure the legality of it. I asked for the city attorney to make an opinion on it. It's the optics that's terrible. And what would happen if 2 or 3 groups came and filled this with food? How would you deal with that? Would you say yes to one group and no to another? The solution is to create a policy that outlines exactly what is appropriate in terms of providing food. I'm not saying you can't have food. I'm saying create a fair policy so that everyone knows it's equitable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marty Hurwitz, and I live on Cambridge Road. Our neighborhood is one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in the city and has been targeted for greater density because of proximity to University of Michigan. We have fraternities, sororities, cooperatives, condominiums, rooming houses, duplexes, multiplexes, and apartment buildings all within 2 blocks of my home. The majority of our neighbors are undergraduate students. We know what is likely to happen with the plan to our neighborhood. A house on Lincoln, about a half a block from my home, was demolished and replaced with two house-like structures that looked like they were designed by a fourth grader. These structures are packed with students. Each of the students have their own bathrooms. There's always trash on the front porches, and there's no landscaping. This is not in any way in context with the neighborhood. In and around our neighborhood, speculators and developers have had field days with luxury high-rises and large boxes, resulting in the loss of affordable housing and loss of small businesses. None of this housing for University of Michigan students or even non-student market rate housing squeezed into neighborhoods would be considered affordable for most people who want to move to Ann Arbor to avoid the commute to work in the city. Why would anybody believe that a dense Ann Arbor would be more desirable than housing in the townships and nearby towns with lower cost of living and better public schools, even considering the commute to work? I don't deny that we have a high housing crisis of affordability. I am glad that the city has moved with Dunbar Tower on schedule. Apparently, it appears that my tax money is going to where it's supposed to go, and I'm pleased about that. But there is a second crisis that has been created by this top-down process of comprehensive plan and its rollout. The mayor has ideas of Manhattanization of the city and densification without any justification. There hasn't been any adequate involvement of all stakeholders and residents in the city in the plan process. Many people spoke to the Planning Commission and wrote to the commission, but their comments and suggestions seem to have been ignored as they do not appear in the third draft of the plan. The process and rollout of the plan has created growing crisis of trust. The plan as written does not allay the lack of trust that many Ann Arbor citizens have in our city government and in this process. This is going to have to be worked on an awful lot better if anyone wants to have a community buy-in for this project.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ralph McKee, Fifth Ward. I oppose approval of the plan and wrote you an email, which I'll summarize now. The plan expresses lofty goals, but it won't achieve them. It's a knowing deception aimed at people who desperately want to believe. And given other recent moves, moving $5 million of affordable housing dollars to the general fund, sales of the Klein lot without committing the sale proceeds to affordable housing, blocking the land trust program for affordable housing, that's the epitome of hypocrisy. Affordability. You've acknowledged that at best the densification promoted by the plan will merely slow price increases. Yet you and the Neighbors for More Neighbors, led by Kirk Westfall here, constantly tout affordability. You've convinced many the plan will help them, but it won't. Why? We have very little vacant land. The cost of existing housing and construction is high. Replacement with denser housing will just result in expensive units. Your talking points might be true, but still not apply here. A Seattle study shows spreading land costs across more units is cheaper. It is, and replacing houses there with quadplexes resulted in units priced the same as the houses. But listen to the author's podcast. You'll find out that applying the math from that study to here would mean triplex units selling at $700,000 to replace a $400,000 house. That will hurt, not help. And as to sustainability, nothing in the plan deals with the massive carbon released by demolition and building. No comparison with the carbon saved by getting commuters off the road, yet the latter is touted as the reason to densify. How many commuters would densification get off the road? Very few commuters can afford $700,000 or $2,000 rents. Of those, what percentage would prefer to live outside the city? You spent $1 million and 2 years on this plan without any real analysis of any of those factors. And the blocking of the plan to build affordable housing by the Land Trust and the comments that it changes in the regs need to wait until the plan is adopted is brutal, hypocritical, given the constant bending the rules for big developments. And where's the angst, Ray, selling the Klein lot for $17 million with no provision whatsoever to use the money for affordable housing? Not a peep. And where's the inconsistency? It wasn't even mentioned at council. The Klein's lot was prioritized by the former council, those that many of you call the antis and the party of no, for affordable housing. That was reiterated by hundreds of people here during the SI debacle. Now, affordable housing, lip service only, hypocrisy. Thank you.
Thank you.
PA, please?
I'm not sure we can do that. What we can ask is that the speaker speak into the microphone. Unfortunately.
The podium can raise and lower as well, if that's needed.
Oh. I think, oh, there it goes. Hi, I'm Bill Hanna, Arden Drive, Ward 2. I'd like to acknowledge that I can see this plan took a lot of work, and I don't want to minimize that and all the work that was done. With that kind thing out there, I have to say I've found problems with the plan. And I also apologize for my tone, since the last party like this I spoke to was the Ann Arbor Board of Education. There are numerous things in the plan that confuse me. You say you're eliminating 5 of previous plans, natural features, land use, downtown, where these seem like they're separate enough that they would be better done as a separate plan, like, say, downtown, because the problems downtown are going to be different than, say, where I live in the northeast corner. That doesn't seem quite right. To use, I guess, the greatest fear for people in my neighborhood, I think, comes straight out of the land use plan of 2009, is on page 61, there's a section called out-of-scale construction. And I think this, if I summarize initially, worries people the most is that their single-family home in a neighborhood will suddenly see a 5- or 10-story building being built on the edge because there is already a business park or something that has been rezoned and can go up a lot higher. And I think this is a big concern, and I find it interesting that this was even mentioned in the land use plan of 2009, yet it seems to be something that one has to just accept with your plan, your current plan. Again, I'm going to steal words from a previous speaker, crisis of trust as far as the plan, that say on page 33, the footnote on a survey that's given there, the results of it, nullify the survey, saying that it's not statistically valid and is only for reference. You have, for home price, you use the American Association of Realtors for the price. I'm sure they probably like the price higher than some other one that's actually looked at the prices. I guess I'm running out of time, but that, I think, is the greatest part as far as there's this mistrust, because as you walk through the plan, you come across numbers that they don't quite make sense, or if you look them up yourself, they don't jive, and that's where you're seeing this pushback. I'm all for a plan. I think it's excellent that you're looking at the future and you grow Ann Arbor in a positive way. But the problem is, if the plan leads to negative outcomes, they're going to happen fast, and they're going to be hard to undo. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Ali Hassani. I live in Ward 2, and I am an Ann Arbor native. I grew up here. I love this city. I want to stay here the rest of my life. I fought through COVID trying to figure out how we're going to handle our own housing crisis, right? Our rents went up about 50%. Then we started getting to bidding wars to go buy a house. We got outbid by someone by $140,000 all cash, right? That's in surplus of the house that we put an offer in. So why am I here, right? Because I think this plan is a gift to real estate developers. I think that I empathize with anyone here who is neighbors for neighbors. I am on your side to have affordable housing. The fight is not you versus me, it's us versus landlords. Because at the end of the day, if you buy my house, you've removed one more single-family home. And let me explain why that's relevant. New housing in the Northeast Corridor goes for about $700,000 today. My house costs $500,000. I'm lucky. We have two incomes. Okay, you buy my house, you bulldoze it. That is now $600,000, $700,000 in cost to buy, demolish, get into a bidding war. I put up a new building. Standard margin construction is 40%. Now I'm looking at new housing for a triplex being maybe $800,000 a unit instead of $700,000. Furthermore, you just drove up the value of the houses around me because you bought mine. There's a reduced supply of single-family housing if you do this. My concerns are simple. Where are the constraints against investments? This plan does nothing to stop someone who is a billionaire from buying out half a town like Jim Chaconis, driving up the rents, squishing smaller people out. I don't want that. I want this beautiful city to thrive. I want everyone in here to be able to afford a house. I don't want to sell out to some random rich person going and owning half the town, collaborating amongst each other, price fixing the rent, which happened to me when I called my landlord and said, well, across town they went to $2,100, so you jumped from $1,400 to $1,850. That's screwed up. I don't see any protections here against that. I don't see any acknowledgments that if we go ahead and liquidate single family for landlords, that they can't go ahead and control the pricing again. So give us that. If you're going to ram this through, which you are, there is no vote for the general population. Do us a favor and put in protections that you can't buy this city for just pure investment. You cannot go ahead and force us out so some random landlord can make billions while we sit here trying to figure out our own housing situation. And best of all, do us the courtesy of putting it up for a vote. Honestly, I think you know your plan's unpopular. If it were truly popular, it would be on the millage and we would have a say, but I have none. So I'll quote what someone told me on the Planning Commission. I get a vote on my own property, but not yours. I get a vote on my property. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Don't try to lift it, Mr. Rain. There's a button.
On the right-hand side. Oh, yep, right down.
Maybe it's all the way to the top down.
I think so. My name is Chuck Ream, Packard Street, Ann Arbor, candidate for the 3rd Ward in the 2026 primary, largely on the basis of this stuff. It is true that current zoning is a relic of racist and classist times, and we need much more diversity in housing. We need more flexibility and more mid-level housing. Yes, absolutely. But it's astounding to me that the Planning Commission could take such good basic concepts and screw up this comprehensive plan so thoroughly. This plan represents a complete takeover of Ann Arbor by real estate developers. The words "rather than" are so prominent here. Rather than thinking about protecting the existing character and natural features, natural environment of Ann Arbor, future policy should aim for housing. Basically, for people who live in Ann Arbor, for people who love Ann Arbor, there is no rather than here. Listen to these coded threats. Quote, prioritizing housing development may require an easing of certain restrictions and constraints. Or, we will rewrite zoning code to remove barriers to housing developments. It is clear that they want to bulldoze much of Ann Arbor as we know it. This comprehensive plan has got to be stopped. This plan says it wants balance, but it tips the balance toward biggering. If this plan cannot be stopped, the most critical thing is to make sure that the same people who created it are not here to interpret it. These people will go on endlessly biggering. To have a fine city in the future, we need a new city council. I'm afraid you are not going to think of some kind of values that allow you to trash out Ann Arbor, not even with luxury trash, for gentrification. The critical point is that there must be no reduction of building setbacks in the residential districts, the residential areas. If there is, the trees will fall, and we will all know that these values were just a dirty trick. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm former City Councilwoman Ann Bannister from North Main Street, and I'm here tonight to ask you to please pause this plan that will have serious repercussions for the future of our city. Our city council has paid $900,000 million for a plan that won't work. It won't achieve the goals that have been promised to us. Affordability, sustainability, and equity are sadly not going to be achieved with this plan. The plan is woefully inadequate on details, with the administration pushing a political narrative that the details will come later. For example, one of the most important things, the plan lacks strategies to protect our environment, natural features, and existing trees from the impacts of the development and resulting greater stormwater runoff. The plan also does not sufficiently describe the capacity of our water, stormwater, and sewer systems and the costs of upgrades required for future growth. Please pause this plan and conduct an infrastructure capacity study. I'm concerned that developers will be allowed to build by right on any lot with reduced setbacks from adjacent properties and sadly without public hearings or notice. Put simply, this plan is missing the facts we need. It ignores the infrastructure that makes growth possible. It offers no solutions to make housing affordable, and it has been developed with far too little resident input. I respectfully ask the Planning Commission to send this plan back to staff for revision to include clear deliverables, such as independent studies on population projections, housing needs, and infrastructure capacity, and a concrete affordability package with specific policies and measurable targets. I urge residents who want to learn more to subscribe to the Pattongill Neighborhood Association newsletter, share your input on the a2pausetheplan.com website and on the Facebook group Ann Arbor Public Policy, and watch excellent summarizing videos from our former council member Elizabeth Nelson at a2lnell.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, good evening. My name is Aaron J. Puno, and first of all, I thank whoever brought the food. I'd just like to up and say thank you for this wonderful food. Now, I'm from the 4th Ward, and I address you tonight in the same outfit I wore when I led our Pioneer JV lacrosse team to an undefeated season in my senior year, and I hope that underscores how much I love this city, and how much I'm going to fight for it. I went to Bryant, I went to Pattongill, I went to Tappan, to Community, to Pioneer, and now I'm here at the University of Michigan, and all of that could have gone up in smoke if not for the fact that my folks had to wait for an economic downturn, the recession of 2008, to afford our lovely home in Georgetown. To quote for once in my life my more activist colleagues, this status quo has got to go. Why should people like me be forced to wait for the economy to crash to afford a home, an apartment in this beautiful city? This city took in an immigrant family, a union nurse, and an airline worker, and treated it with respect, with dignity, and with world-class public services, and that future must not be denied to more people simply because we failed to build more homes. We need to build more homes. Many folks here, with the best of intentions, want to protect our environment, and I say, what's worse for the environment, building one tower or however many towers are necessary, or the suburbanization of the rest of our wetlands, our forests, our farmlands, and the failed suburban policies of L. Brooks Patterson? We need more homes. And I raise you this. Let us go one step further. Let us seriously explore the ideal of social housing. Now, it's damn expensive for local governments to start building homes. We're not in that sort of business, but we are in the business we can be in the business of buying homes. We can buy units. We can buy units and lease it out to those who need it most. We must explore every possible option to ensure that my future in the city, that all of our futures in the city will not be held hostage by the intransigence of the past. We must build more homes. We must pass this plan. Go Tigers, go Blue, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jamie Hodges. I'm at 1225 Kensington Drive in Ann Arbor. My home abuts to Industrial Highway, and a chain link fence keeps me away from Industrial and Highway, and I'm not sure with this current third rev what the yellow shaded area means. Is it transit area? Is it a manufacturing area? Is it small manufacturing or large manufacturing? If you look at the entire map of the city, you will see that my neighborhood, which is called Calkins neighborhood, is slated for the greatest amount of impact. We are targeted mainly due to our small homes on relatively large lots that are most affordable for developers to purchase. This plan could transfer many of us into what you call transition instead of a small single-family home that it took me forever to afford, but I love it. I was driving during the latest downpour and have pictures showing the flooding streets where I could not even drive through them. I had to turn around and back up. These roads I encountered were Industrial Highway and Jewett Road, and that is in my neighborhood, which could be developed quite largely. We need to promote Ann Arbor Community Land Trust, keep it as it was originally created. Do not dilute this forward-thinking project. The original land trust had real meaning. It was designed to add and blend duplexes, triplexes, even three-story into existing neighborhoods, and not add money to developers' pockets. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Curtis Davis. I'm a native of Ann Arbor, Ward 1. I am here, maybe not speaking to the correct audience, but have lived here all my life. I am currently asking why a historic designation be extended to include the areas between Kingsley and Depot Street on 4th and 5th Avenue, and including Division to Summit. These were the foundational neighborhoods for immigrant and black families due to redlining and racist banking and real estate policies in the past. These policies, through deception and exclusion, led to the gentrification we now have. Those who hold on are owed at least that. The club will allow single-family homes dating back to the 1890s to be targeted and torn down and replaced by million-dollar units, and replace the history of what the originals knew as the village. And I'm just asking that we pause the plan, and considering this neighborhood that really is the hub of our ambiance and our economic engine here in Ann Arbor, be considered a place that we really want to continue to sustain and not let it be washed away. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Tracy Swinburne. I live on Potter Avenue. I'm here asking. Thanks. I'm here to ask you to please pause and reconsider the plan. I know for me and for so many others that I know who are asking to pause the plan, it's not because we oppose housing growth or increased density or that we're just plain NIMBYists. It's because we're concerned that this plan is opening up really large swaths of land for developers, and that it's in developers' best interests rather than the city and residents of Ann Arbor. We think we're worthy of a comprehensive plan process that's more detailed, more specific, draws up scenarios to allow residents to engage more meaningfully, has the kind of transport impact assessments, scenario development, water, sewer, schools, utility scenarios, and costs and benefits, so that we can then meaningfully engage citizens on those different possibilities and scenarios and allow them to contribute more meaningfully. Right now, it's been really hard for citizens to contribute because it's been so vague and unclear what exactly people are talking about. But we think we could make more efficient and effective contributions if people had scenarios and data and information on public costs and benefits and tax and where most efficiently and more specifically planning and development could go, instead of just really wide swaths of open development where developers would then be in the driver's seat to choose where and how much development occurs. The planning process is meant to be the instrument that curbs the market failures of developers who will be developing individual parcels one at a time to maximize their benefit, as we know they do. But the planning process is the way that we can make it instead a place that most benefits our community. And we need to have a really strong process, more limiting, more specific, to make sure that we don't end up with just parcel at a time being developed for maximum profit rather than a community. We can do it much better if we have a stronger planning process with the kind of metrics, evaluation, strategy, scenario development that allows people to contribute more meaningfully. So I'm asking to pause the plan on that basis, not because we're NIMBYs or we don't want more housing, or we don't want more affordable housing. In fact, we really do. But we think that this plan instead is opening things up for maximum profit for developers rather than making the best community for our Ann Arbor residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Eric Shaleko, and I live in Ward 4. I'm sure we're in for a very, very long public comment period tonight, so off the bat, I want to thank you for all your hard work engaging the community and drafting the comp plan, and God willing, third time's the charm. After reading it, I hope that City Council adopts the third draft in its entirety and starts building an Ann Arbor for all. It gives me hope that my hometown will create abundant housing, help folks afford to live here, and become an even more vibrant, diverse, and sustainable community. To be honest, it makes me hopeful for Ann Arbor when about a year ago, I was skeptical it would ever get better and thought about leaving. But after seeing the positivity in action from my neighbors, including but not limited to providing dinner to everyone in council chambers so I can be part of the civic process right after work, I'm excited to see change finally happen. I know there's plenty of work after this, but it's refreshing to see that the majority of the city is energized for more of everything. We know that the status quo hasn't worked, and the only way to fix our housing is progressing, not pausing. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kathy Griswold. I want to thank all of the planning commissioners, and I want to thank everyone in the room. I think that we're here tonight because we truly care about our community. We truly care about the direction of our community. And density is inevitable, but the question is, how do we get there? And I think a lot of the disagreements and the miscommunication are the result of two different views, one more of a policy view and the other one more of a practical view. And the woman who spoke, two speakers before me, alluded to that. And I just want to give you one example. Affordability is very, very important in Ann Arbor. We talk about affordability all the time. However, we now have before us on November 4th a regressive property tax increase, 1 mil, that will return over 10 years $250 million to the WISD. That's $250 million that will be taken away from hardworking individuals. So we need to make the decision. Do we support affordability, or do we support yet another property tax increase? I think we have that before us. And I also want to mention, because it's really troubling to me, and I'm someone who was a school board member, I was a foster parent, I volunteered in the schools, I'm very committed to education. But This millage is taking $1 million out of the classroom to pay for this special election. All of the signage that you see at the schools and in people's front yards does not say paid for by the campaign for, it says paid for by WISD. WISD is me and you. If you're truly committed to affordability, if you're truly committed to keeping money in the classroom for our students, you will vote no on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Josh Jacobson, 5th Ward. I'd like to just encourage the council today to approve the comprehensive land use plan, get that sent on to City Council. It feels like by pausing the plan, we've spent months and months revising, updating, and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultant fees. We have a long road ahead of us. We still have a lot of work to do to get more affordable housing in this community, and I would encourage that we start the next step of that process and pass this today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jeffrey Post, Ward 2, born at University of Michigan Hospital a long time ago. My name is Jeffrey Post. I'm a resident and realtor in Ann Arbor, and I don't just sell homes. I help people imagine their future here. I'm proud to say that along with hundreds of my realtor colleagues, we are often the first people to introduce new residents to what makes this city special, its neighborhoods, its sense of place, and its character. But that pride is increasingly comes with concern, because when I sit across the table from buyers today, the biggest questions they're asking are not square footage in school districts. They're asking, what might be built next door? I hear a lot about multi-units. All these high-rises that are being built everywhere, they don't even look like they belong in a college town. The taxes are crazy high here. Can we also add townships to our search? Real estate agents are key stakeholders and ambassadors to this town. The uncertainty around what we can and will be developed is real, and it's amplified by the perception that decisions are being made without the voices of residents truly at the table. The recent removal of the Design Review Board, combined with fewer public hearings, has left many feeling unheard in shaping the physical identity of their own community. Meanwhile, the University of Michigan, our largest and likely most influential roommate, has just formed its own Design Review Committee, stating that the character of our physical environment, the way it's organized, planned, and developed, is going to accelerate the achievement of institutional goals. That is a clear, intentional design philosophy, and frankly, it's one our city should share and be a critical part of the future comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan in its current form does not yet reflect that philosophy or partnership. It treats the university and the city as parallel tracks rather than shared landscape. But if Ann Arbor is to remain the place we all fell in love with, smart, beautiful, forward-thinking, and livable, that relationship must be intentional, collaborative, and integrated into the plan itself. So tonight, I'm asking the committee to make a commitment, a promise, to start walking in stride with the university, not behind it, to ensure that as we grow together, guided by shared design principles, thoughtful density, and unified vision for what our city looks and feels like. Because the people who are moving here, investing here, and raising families here, they're not just buying homes, they're buying into our story. Let's make sure that story still looks, sounds, and feels like Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Dokas. I'm on Ward 4. As I look over your third draft plan of the entire city and pay attention especially to the transition zones, I can't help but see that the most affordable section of town is being moved into transition more than the rest of the city. As I keep in mind the stated goals of your plan, that being affordability, this plan makes little sense to me. I'm not against change, nor am I against density if done correctly. In my mind, what makes the most sense for the city is to increase duplexes, especially like the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. This would make it possible for city workers to live here. In order to have affordable housing, we actually have to build it, and I don't think that you're going to find that from developers. Here's a picture, a blow-up of the section that I'm most concerned about. Here's a picture of 4th Ward, where most of these smaller and more reasonably priced homes are located, between Packard and South Industrial. You'll see that not just that transition encroaches and encircles, but also squeezes out the remaining homes. This will accelerate the loss of moderately priced homes as they are turned into rentals. These won't be moderately priced rentals, but upscale ones aimed at the affluent. And as that happens, the property values for the land trust will be bid up beyond their reach. The whole area of the city where I live is vulnerable and is threatened by developers because of your plan. When I ask why the STRs are not excluded, I'm told to wait for the zoning, since that's where all the important decisions will be made. The same answer is given when I ask about trees and shading of solar panels. The plan seems intentionally vague to me, using such terms as stories instead of feet, since a story can be of different heights, while feet cannot. I read that the Ann Arbor is the most educated city in America. So why haven't you enlisted us in your plan? Together we could make the city much more affordable. There is no deadline, so why don't you pause this plan and include us so we can get it right? We can do better.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alexandra Taylor, and I am for more housing in Ann Arbor and allowing more people to call this fine city home. The question to me is who is to benefit and at what cost? I am fortunate enough to call myself a homeowner here in the city of Ann Arbor, and I desire to have that opportunity in reach for more people that work here and want to create a life here. If zoning and incentives are developed with these priorities in mind, I believe this is possible. When I look at the last published zoning map and supporting literature, however, I see opportunities for developers and investors to maximize profits, like we have seen in our downtown, price fixing to maximize profits rather than maximize utilization of the land and culture we have to offer. When our previous apartment complex changed management, similar behavior occurred. Prices went up, and so did vacancies. All for profits, not for the residents. Change is necessary. Change can be progress for the betterment of most. When zoning is done with broad brushstrokes, disruption is front and center rather than creating affordability or opportunity for residents. I'm a Ward 2 resident living on Yorktown Drive near the Plymouth corridor. If you look at the latest published draft, our home and our neighbors' homes changed from R1C to transition zone. Our community pool and the lots immediately adjacent to our R1C neighbors are labeled hub. I understand that having a northeast hub is the vision, but the lines seem to be hastily drawn without full understanding from or about the residents that currently live here. I encourage you to reevaluate, to understand the desires of each neighborhood, and create a plan that reflects opportunity and equity for residents above investors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Larry Haggerty. I'm a resident of Heather Way on Ward 2. I've lived in Ann Arbor and been a homeowner since 1980, so for about 45 years. And I've never been to a meeting like this, let alone speak to it before. So it may speak to the importance, I think, of this plan that's been developed. I have a few observations. The first one is that the premise that this plan reflects the entire Ann Arbor community, I think, is very flawed. Its direction and priorities are driven by a like-minded mayor and city council and a similarly handpicked like-minded planning commission. Opportunities for early input were not well communicated and broad participation was limited. Unaligned input was distilled by a well-intentioned but still biased mindset. Quotes are clearly chosen to reinforce. A few concerning views are noted in passing but essentially dismissed. Now that the drafts and details are out, I think there's a lot of interest in providing more feedback where it can make a difference, and the attendance tonight during a Tigers game is probably a reflection of that. Specifics, second point, specifics about the economic viability of this plan with respect to infrastructure and the tax base are touched upon, but just there's no specifics, there's no details, there's no real analysis of what that's going to get. If the economics of this plan aren't going to work, the plan isn't going to work. Third point, please be particularly mindful of how this plan and its related actions and inactions as well are impacting the business community. And I don't mean the development community, I mean the business community in the town. Business affordability and public safety are necessary for the walkable and diverse combined residential and business communities with affordable housing that you're seeking. Those are all noble goals. But many in the business community are very anxious. The next point I think was raised before about trust. Fourth point here, there's a meaningful lack of trust by many, not just some, around this project and the practical judgment of the City Council in general. A few examples that have affected my trust: the behind-the-scenes manipulation of city parkland statistics to exclude golf courses, which raise potential issues which can be done to golf courses without a citizen vote, is concerning. Secondly, while virtually everybody's for the concept of bike paths and people being able to ride bikes to work and reducing carbon emissions, et cetera, I don't think everybody was expecting what happened to the city's roads around bike paths. I think that's a surprise. And lastly, the fact that there's really little interest in the PAWS initiative, it brings to mind the concept of railroading, and you should take some time, I think, to rebuild trust in the community. You speak to the plan for decision making to be more diverse and have more diverse input.
Thank you.
I hope you take advantage of that.
My name is Brenda Millett. I live in the third ward.
Can you bring the mic down towards you?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm short.
It's a yeah.
My
Me
name
too.
is Brenda Millett. I live in the third ward, and for years saw the giant hole where the old Kroger's and other neighborhood stores existed prior to being destroyed for a new apartment complex, the George. The original developer went bankrupt. Given the current economic uncertainty in Washington, will residents of Ann Arbor be exposed to the same mess that my neighborhood endured? How many developers will go under? Tariffs and all the other mess. Further, how much will the new infrastructure cost to accommodate the increased density? Are we going to build a water treatment facility? Current homeowners are going to be asked to foot the bill, aren't they? Property taxes are already steep for rental landlords. So how can they not have high rents in order to meet the property tax burden? That defeats the affordable housing rationale. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
It's a response thing. My name is Irma Meyer. I live at 2809 Bruckman Boulevard. First, let's be clear. I think that no one here is against neighbors. We've kind of established that. Not even against more neighbors. So why haven't the commission and council made a real effort to include all of our neighbors in planning Ann Arbor's future? Comprehensive planning requires meaningful, robust community engagement, actively reaching residents where they live. Open houses and workshops have reached only a small segment of the community. By failing to engage residents early and throughout the process, officials make consensus nearly impossible. Even today, a large percentage of your neighbors don't know that major changes to the land use map are underway. They don't know their one-story ranch may now be next to or even in a transition zone or hub. They don't know what that means. And please don't claim the plan doesn't rezone anything, that zoning comes later. That claim is inaccurate. The comprehensive plan and zoning are legally connected. Zoning ordinances must be based on and consistent with the plan. Michigan law requires that a master plan also include a zoning plan covering height, area, bulk, location, use, and setbacks. This draft is still missing that information and more, including how we will prioritize affordable, middle and lower income housing and not continue to build expensive market rate development that does not meet our community's real needs. By deciding not to inform and engage all residents and refusing to pause the plan, the message seems clear. The plan cannot achieve what residents want or need. You can still pause for a comprehensive restart. And since I have a little more time, I do have a question. How do you expect to create an equitable, inclusive plan without including more or most of the residents in making the plan? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Godfrey, and I live at 2809 Brockman. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate your tolerance with the passions, the diverse passions that have been expressed and shared with over the previous weeks, and I know it can be a travail, and I really respect your tolerance for all the voices that have been raised here, and that should be raised, and I hope that other voices will be raised as well. Cities are fragile. The communities that make cities alive, however, are even more fragile. Ann Arbor is increasingly unaffordable for working and middle-class families, and the draft plan risks making this worse, especially in the city's most vulnerable neighborhoods. Even the housing report that's buried in the plan's appendix acknowledges this trend. Yet the plan prioritizes costly market rate housing over housing accessible to those who have been priced out, and you've heard from a number of those, and those who are most exposed to gentrification, and you've heard from several of those. The proposed transition district, which I just want to talk about briefly, will certainly accelerate this trend, especially in the south side of Ann Arbor, by allowing denser, taller buildings and new uses such as short-term rentals and industrial activity. This will promote higher cost housing, undermine the stability of low and moderate income neighborhoods. The district will extend through, just 3 instances, Packard to South Industrial, where 39 to 47% of households are low to moderate income according to the U.S. Census most recent survey. East of Stone School, the number of low to moderate income households climbs to 63 to 99%, depending on the census tract. Pittsfield Village and nearby areas along Packard, 50 to 60% of those households are low to moderate income and would be seriously affected by transition zones. These are diverse, close-knit communities where working families are holding on. The plan encourages Ann Arbor's race to affluence and makes them a target for speculators. We need real strategies now in this plan to counter gentrification in these neighborhoods. This means several suggestions. Prioritizing permanently affordable homes by investing in land trusts, co-ops, and nonprofit housing now, not in 4 to 6 years as the plan projects. Strictly limiting short-term rentals in transition districts and requiring buffers for industrial uses near homes. Third, consider adopting a community benefits ordinance like the City of Detroit, so residents can negotiate real benefits when developers thrust projects into neighborhoods so that neighborhoods can receive benefits for themselves going forward. Ann Arbor can still choose equity and affordability, but only if the plan allows it and protects residents and their fragile communities at risk from displacement. As it is written, this plan does none of those things.
Good evening.
Please adjust the mic, if you can. Please adjust the mic to your
so sorry.
height.
Is this better?
That is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Good evening. Ron Lev, 3rd Ward. My impression of this plan is that it will not increase affordability, but it will unleash market forces to allow greater gentrification. I want to address something that's a very appealing concept that's been thrown around and I think is a fallacy. The idea that increasing housing stock in Ann Arbor will somehow lower the cost of housing in Ann Arbor, which is intuitively very appealing. And more supply means lower prices. This would be true if Ann Arbor were an island with a fixed number of people and a fixed housing stock. But Ann Arbor is part of a much larger metro area. And Ann Arbor appeals to people who have money, people want to live here. So increasing housing stock in Ann Arbor will have a small effect on housing stock in the entire Detroit metro area, and it may reduce costs in other communities like Redford or other places or Southfield where some people move to Ann Arbor from those places, but it's unlikely to have that effect in Ann Arbor, and all the building that we've seen in downtown has been market rate, very expensive apartments and hasn't actually been shown to reduce cost. To the extent that this plan to the extent that the function of government to some degree and of planning and zoning is to constrain and channel market forces, this plan seems to just liberate them to do what they want to do and takes the neighborhoods that are currently affordable and allows those to become a windfall for developers and for those homeowners who want to or are compelled to sell their houses to developers. There's a potential vicious cycle where homeowners would potentially be offered a lot more money to sell their house for the development of a multi-unit development, and this is particularly in the neighborhoods that are the more affordable neighborhoods of Ann Arbor. Once some homeowners do that, the homeowners who remain in single-family homes will have potentially quite tall buildings next to them, and their own use value of their own home would go down as a single-family homeowner, which would incent them to also sell. So there's a potential vicious cycle here, and there's no indication that the increased supply would actually lower prices. An analogy I'd like to use is, if I took a bucket and I had a full tub of water in my house and started emptying water from the tub, the level of the water would go down. That's analogous to prices going down on an island. But if I took that same bucket and went to Pickerel Lake or Lake Michigan and started scooping water out of the lake with a bucket, it would have a negligible impact. And increasing the housing supply in Ann Arbor, it has to be considered over the entire metro area, and there's no indication that Ann Arbor wouldn't simply become a greater concentration of gentrification, and the lower housing that comes from increased supply would occur elsewhere. So in my mind, if you want affordability, you have to do something that constrains and channels market forces and potentially come through with things that are essentially anti-market and redistributive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tricia Hackney, and I live in the Crossings condominiums. The comprehensive plan has been promulgated as an affordable housing plan. Yet so far, the affordable element appears around 2 or 3%. That's a guess, but I don't have all the stats. That's before the existing affordable housing in transition zones are potentially eliminated, such as my home. If passed, the TCP could eliminate more affordable housing than it creates. Once eliminated, list price will give residents 1/4 of replacement costs, leaving them no options in Ann Arbor and limited options in the area. Ward 1, with a median income of $81,000, already has 500 affordable housing units in Arrowwood Co-op. Hundreds of entry-level homes similar to the comprehensive plan's 50 houses in 50 years project, and the most affordable condominiums in the city, us, Crossings. Yet it is Wright Street to Longshore, where I live, that is designated as a transition zone because it's profitable. In fact, $2 million condo projects are already underway right at the end of the block. 90 people live in the Crossings that would fit in a 4 to 5 individual houses. In my courtyard, we enjoy India, China, Taiwan, and Brazil as neighbors. I am the minority at home and on the number 220 bus. Best neighbors ever. Ann Arbor claims it wants more affordable housing for teachers. She's standing right in front of you. Asking for tangible results for existing affordable housing. She wants to believe in Ann Arbor's administration, but their actions telegraph fait accompli, prioritizing the rich and well-to-do over the middle class.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hi, I am Stacy Haar, 2004 Crestland, and it's really nice to be here again tonight. I do want to thank you all for the work you're doing. We know that you are here. Believe me, we all know that you are here because you care about the city, and we care about the city too. I agree with many of the people who've expressed interest in pausing the plan, that there are just a lot of things that are not covered, that are not addressed, that are not feeling comfortable. At the end of the day, we are going to get to a path, at the end of the decade or 2 decades, 25 years, we'll get to a path where there's more density in Ann Arbor. There's no doubt. It's going to happen. Many people want this. It's going to happen. But there's a couple ways to get there, and we can be thoughtful and conservative and care about our city, or we can do a carefree way. Either way, we're going to get there. But let's do it in a way that makes sense, that preserves the things that make Ann Arbor, Ann Arbor. I really, really hope you're listening, and I really beg you to consider what you've heard. We're going to get there, but there's no reason not to pause the plan and to make sure that we get it right. Please, I beg you.
Thank you.
My name is Bronwyn Gates, and I live in one of those transition neighborhoods. And I'm not going to speak to specific issues because they've been so eloquently expressed. And I am definitely one of those people who would like to advocate the pausing of the plan to get more input from people. I have a language that I use where I call a future that is imposed on people without their having the chance to really give their input, a forced future. It is not a future of choice by the many. And that many, many people in the city know that the plan that is currently being examined does not express what they believe and what they want. And there may be many, many, many more people who don't know the details of what is happening here because their lives are so busy and involved in doing what they have, personal stuff, worry about money, whatever it is, that doesn't allow them to delve deeply into the workings of their city council and the planning commission and all these other things that have so much impact on our lives. So what I want to speak to, and I've lived in this city for 50 years, and I've come to this place as a place I've been humbled by living here and discovering that everyone needs a voice, and we need to listen courteously to that voice. We need to know that the choice that we are invited to exercise is a choice that comes from vision, that comes from compassion, that comes from an awareness that each person has a unique contribution. I know this sounds utopian, but let me see if I can find where I am. But to me, it would, I've lost, give me a minute. So it takes time, it takes energy, it takes vision. But what I see in these times of change is that we can allow a different vision of our future, and it requires creativity, it requires imagination, it requires vision, it requires passion. There's plenty of that available. So I want to see a process that looks to a future possibility that we have not yet allowed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Kirk Westfall, Charter Place. Thank you for your hard work. For the record, I'm the Executive Director of Neighborhood Institute, not on the organizing committee of the excellent Neighbors for Our Neighbors organization, although I do occasionally wear their T-shirt. I've appreciated the comments from every one of you throughout this process. Even if I don't agree with all of them, I find them all to the person to be thoughtful and thought-provoking. I support the plan in its current draft. I think it's come out in a very good place, although I disagree with the framing and specific input from City Council. Some of the dry stuff, I forwarded you some comments earlier. The main points I wanted to raise, it has to do with 113 through 115. I'd encourage you to remove the phrases constraining transition high-rises to be only next to hub. High-rises should be allowed away from low-rise, period. On page 114 and 115, transition should not say medium scale, but rather medium to large scale. Regarding the map, I didn't cross-reference it with the multiple conversations you had about the questionable sites that came at the end, but I do seem to recall that you decided that some of the parcels on the east side of Pontiac Trail near DeVarn should be transitioned. I hope you'll look closely at the map tonight. And regarding the timeline, I'd love for commissioners to seek some clarity at the meeting. If you can approve the draft tonight pending minor changes and council sends the draft out for review in a couple of weeks, the comment period would close in late December, and clearly January is a better time for hearings, but I hope you won't pause the plan beyond that unless absolutely necessary. I want to respond to the comment about the demolition of single-family homes for expensive, either big-footed single-family, duplex, or triplex homes. The addition of units does take pressure off the current housing stock, but I do share the concern about oversized units and encourage the ORC to start weighing possible zoning solutions like maximum unit sizes. I'd also like to push back on the notion that certain neighborhoods should be preserved because they're currently more affordable than other neighborhoods. This relates to the argument in favor of preserving neighborhoods in the current historic districts or house museums that we have. We can see how this plays out. You can look at the sales price of uninhabitable buildings close to downtown, or start looking at coastal communities where there's $1 million tear downs, but they're well preserved. More homes lowers rents and sales prices. There's no serious academic debate on this. If you'd like to look at primary research and peer-reviewed studies, just search for housing supply skepticism. I'd like to point out that many former elected officials were elected with the support of wealthy landlords whose interest is in constraining the housing supply. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Can you tilt the mic towards you?
My name is Karen O'Neill. I live in the Burns Park area. As I understand it, the Planning Commission will accept the third and final draft of the comprehensive plan tonight. and recommend it to City Council for approval, a done deal, in other words. This plan was created at great expense in the dark of night without public input or even awareness. The supposed purpose of the comprehensive plan is to increase affordable housing. This it does not do. The comprehensive plan is a gift to developers from out of town who are not interested in creating affordable housing, but are interested in increasing their profits. No thought has been given to the real problem of providing increased sewer and water infrastructure to support enormous increase in population. What is the rush in moving forward with this ill-conceived plan? You, as responsible civic leaders, should be in the forefront of pausing the plan until these major issues are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dan Billage, 3rd Ward. Thank you all for your service. Unfortunately, I think you guys are sniffing your own fumes with this stuff. If enacted, this proposed freeform rezoning would enable the freeform real estate strip mining of Ann Arbor. That's what I see. The world is crazy right now. International and domestic capital flows effortlessly to any opportunity to leverage a lucrative return on investment. Investing in real estate is a very attractive and popular form of money laundering. And now, at this precarious moment in American and world history, the Ann Arbor City Council and Planning Commission are apparently in favor of a radical rezoning to expose Ann Arbor's neighborhoods to even more real estate speculation and money laundering. I hope not. That would be a terrible thing. I want affordable housing in Ann Arbor. I want economic and racial justice. This proposed zoning plan pays lip service to those values, but does not take any concrete or reality-based steps to ensure they be acted upon. Simply rezoning and expecting investors who do not live here to implement our values apparently out of the goodness of their hearts profoundly misunderstands and misrepresents human nature and the forces at work in today's world. The people and speculative financial institutions who will buy up houses in my neighborhood and your neighborhood in order to profitably flip them will not care about Ann Arbor. They will care about profit, and they will be guided by profit. The bigger, the better. Again, if enacted, this proposed freeform rezoning would enable the freeform real estate strip mining of Ann Arbor. Neighbors for more neighbors. Neighbors, I ask you to do the right thing by opposing this shocking and profoundly unneighborly land grab. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Monroe, Ward 5. I'm advocating for two things this evening. The first is to cap height in residential districts to no more than 1 story above adjacent structures to respond to resident concerns about access to sunlight and canyon effect. Today, 3-story structures can be built out of scale within neighborhoods made up of single-family homes. This plan will incentivize that, and so consideration should be given to ensure incremental increases in density that align with existing neighborhood scale, to quote the residential district description. Second, as residents have requested, please designate areas that are today in practice residential neighborhoods as residential, not transition districts. I'm frustrated by what feels like an approach that pushes for maximums without flexibility, fails to grapple with nuance, and feels unresponsive to the concerns of residents. I feel like it's being driven by an overestimation of what zoning can accomplish. With regard to affordability, data is mixed and context dependent. Some studies show it decreases cost. Others, it shows it increases. All of them have caveats. We've been told today's luxury housing is tomorrow's affordable housing, but studies show that filtering slows and even reverses in high-demand areas. Finally, it appears to require a tremendous amount of new housing, the equivalent of making every day a football Saturday with congestion and crowding, to gain modest amounts of price relief. That doesn't seem like a good trade for us. And no, the idea that if we simply build more housing that contrasts with our existing stock, commuters will move here in droves and stop driving altogether is an unvalidated assumption. For those who want to walk to grocery stores, large apartment developments in recent years have replaced grocery stores. The Kroger on Packard is now the George. The Kroger I grew up walking to is now Beekman on Broadway. Over-indexing on market rate housing will not create the outcomes we desire. I've seen our farmers market, a vibrant public space, boxed in by luxury development while giving almost nothing back in terms of street activation, almost no retail, mostly parking garage entries. That is a miss. Our natural features inventory has decreased without any city oversight through by-right zoning. Development is responsible for destroying acres of woodland, hundreds of feet of steep slope frontage on Longshore Drive for $1.5 million condos. That is not a win. That is just one pitfall of by-right zoning where through oversimplification, we relinquish our ability to shape what gets built in our city. Zoning for the missing middle is the right thing to do. I am for more duplexes and triplexes in our neighborhoods. Should we do our part to help with the national housing crisis? Absolutely. We can build more housing, but we should remain oriented to our current residents and maintain some semblance of control in what happens to our community. I am asking for reasonable compromise and moderation. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's a really tough act to follow. Thank you. My name is Donna Babcock. I'm from 1890 Upland Drive in the First Ward. I've spoken to you before about my little neighborhood. It's a middle-class neighborhood. We house teachers, nurses, medical staff, engineers, clerks, artists, and craftsmen. We have multi-generations living in a home, and there are multi-generations that have lived on the street and are still there. Our neighborhood is very diverse, ethnically and racially, and also by ages. We have infants and toddlers. During the Draft 2 process, one of my neighbors, as the neighbors became aware of what was going on, they were very upset because they didn't know anything about it. So one of them, in outrage, wrote to the mayor, and the mayor promptly replied and said, "Oh, your neighborhood should never be in a transition zone, never. It's a tiny little neighborhood between two big housing complexes across from the North Campus." And so we were assured then by the mayor that we wouldn't be, and now here we are. We're still in a transition zone, like, guess that doesn't mean anything. And that is a flexible mixed-use category that accommodates residential, commercial,
I'm sorry, Ms. Babcock, we can't hear you anymore.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
That accommodates a flexible mixed-use category that accommodates residential, commercial, and industrial employment as it supports a variety of building types near transit to enhance walkability, increase transit use, and strengthen commercial activity along key corridors and nodes. We're a dead-end street that dead ends into Leslie Park Woods. We shouldn't be transition. So I do want to thank you for what you've done, but I really do believe that you've not listened to the citizens, and you've also, we come up here and we disclose to you where we live, and we talk about generalizations, but we talk about our neighborhoods. And we've never asked you to disclose where you live and if you'll be affected by this plan. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Wendy Carmen, 2340 Georgetown Boulevard. I've served on the ZBA, and I was a member of the 2019 committee that initially recommended the consultant for this project. I support the plan being based on affordability, sustainability, and equity. Our committee recommended that these terms be clearly defined in the plan. They are not. We recommended conducting a scientific survey among residents of Ann Arbor, but Brett Leonard told us that this would not be done because it was unnecessary and too expensive. You could have notified all the property owners in Ann Arbor, but you did not. You could have held dialogues with the neighborhoods. In fact, it seems you deliberately excluded them from the conversation. Although the plan does not define affordability, which it should, many people think it will lower rents and home prices. Not likely. Sustainability. You could have worked to protect our trees, our open spaces, and our significant natural areas, which are the character of our entire city, but you have not. Equity. Why have you impacted the lowest cost neighborhoods with transitional zones? I want you to hold dialogues with the most effective neighborhoods. They have information to share with you. Before you pass this plan, you should do that. They are the key stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tegwin John. I live in Ward 1. I grew up in Ann Arbor. I urge you to pause this plan because it seems to have had extremely little input from the people who it will impact, the people who live in this city. It totally baffles me that this commission, along with city council as a whole, is moving forward on the track that it has been on as Ann Arbor continues to become more and more affordable and less like the town that so many of us fell in love with. I counted it a privilege to grow up here, and I don't think that that's the case anymore. And I think that this plan that you guys are proposing or are considering voting on would turn Ann Arbor into something much more akin to Houston than the Boulder that everybody here has claimed that it is so like for so long. Hello, commissioners. There are so many people who wish that we could live here, but more than that, we wish that we could live in a city that is personable, eclectic, has beautiful natural areas, and access to vibrant and diverse communities. And I have witnessed the kinds of impacts that the developments that this plan would give way to make on the community, and that's none of the above. It destroys all of those things. And if the developments, the by right developments that are going in along Longshore Drive are any indication, this will be an extreme loss to the qualities that make this city so wonderful. I would like to see this planning commission and the city government as a whole be brave and be innovative when it comes to facing the challenges that we all face as a city and as a much broader nation when we look at making plans right now that will lead to affordable, habitable, and equitable cities in the future. I would like to see Ann Arbor become a regional leader in regional transit that connects Ann Arbor to other cities across Southeast Michigan that are desperate for people to live there. When I go to Battle Creek, when I go to Kalamazoo, when I go to Flint, I'm like, why isn't Ann Arbor working with these communities to support development and support people moving there? Because there are a lot of towns that need a lot more people to live there to create a vibrant region, which is what I think we should be focusing on, rather than lining the pockets of developers, which is what this Planning Commission and government seems to be most interested in. So I urge all of you to listen to feedback, to listen to the people who want to make this city affordable and transitable for residents here and across the region, as opposed to turning it into something disgusting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Stolberg, 1202 Traver, in the heart of Lowertown, Ann Arbor. For less than $9, you can buy a ream of paper to print out this plan on. That ream of paper, that blank paper, won't do anything to help affordability, sustainability, or equity. Unfortunately, neither will the $900,000 plan. I'm a landlord. I'm a former subdivision developer. I'm a property owner. Everybody is exactly correct about what this plan will do for real estate interests. You are going to make me money with this plan. I'm not asking you to, and I don't favor this plan, but that's what you're going to do. This plan does not provide for affordable housing. It actually goes the other direction, because the housing that will be added will be expensive, and the teardowns to make those expensive housings will be the more moderate priced housing of our city, which won't have its housing stock added to. The supply of the moderate housing stock will decrease, and that will accelerate the price growth in the moderate housing segments. What we're trying to do, we are going to go backwards on. Without that modest priced housing that this plan is not going to do anything for in the short term, midterm, and if we're lucky, maybe it would in the long term, but at least not short and long term, midterm, the sustainability goals fail because we're counting on massive numbers of commuters not being able to move here. But if they can't afford to live here, if they can't afford to move here, they're still commuting. So the sustainability main goal is lost without affordability. We need to focus on affordability. Equity isn't there without affordability. You want to add some amenities in our neighborhoods? That's great. But guess what? Only the people who can afford to live there get those amenities. That's not very equitable. One thing that really disturbs me about equity, as somebody in the real estate business, we've been trained and taught, and we know there definitely is historical systemic racism, discrimination in housing and lending policies. And what that did was deny people opportunity for intergenerational equity building through home ownership. And guess what? This plan doesn't do anything for them except call that out. That's offensive. Pause the plan, get it right.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Ritter. I live in the First Ward. And Adam, wherever you are, we've been working on this for 6 years, not 2 or 3. Pause the plan to take reality into account. Make sure the plan results in its stated goals of affordable, equitable, sustainable, and dynamic Ann Arbor. The current plan will not. It will not lead to affordable housing at scale. Reference the article I sent you all on Minneapolis, after which Ann Arbor's entire plan, including Neighbors for More Neighbors, is almost a carbon copy. It's experienced an increase in housing, but it is all market rate, not affordable. Minneapolis is now considering social housing or community land trusts. Blanket upzoning does not work. We all know the city wants and needs more money for their significant staffing increases and legacy expenses. For property tax revenues, it rezones every square inch in town, but no study or report supports the claim of 45,000 new housing units by 2050. But there is a well-documented report by the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation stating the entire county, including Ann Arbor, only needs 15,000 new units in the next 15 to 20 years, and they need to be affordable. The foundation further stated that the 2 best things the city can do would be to build affordable housing for seniors who would like to downsize from their family homes but cannot under the current circumstances. This could free up as many as 40,000 empty bedrooms in Washtenaw County for families, all at new tax rates. The second statement, beware of overbuilding. Upzoning the entire city immediately increases property tax revenue by raising tax categories, and it also makes the city vulnerable to speculative real estate developers on a scale not seen or imagined before. There is no more exclusionary property than a luxury high-rise. As for sustainability, this scale of construction and the energy needed to maintain and operate it will obliterate the goal of net zero. City land use plans are updated every 10 years. Scale back this plan to match a 10-year time frame. You don't need to plan until 2050. Right-size this plan for the goals of affordable, sustainable, equitable, and dynamic Ann Arbor. The things we all want. We all want that. The current plan will not achieve it. The city wants income. There must be a way to craft a plan answering the hopes and needs of all, but this plan is not it.
Thank you.
My name is Kathy Boris. I live at 1726 Charlton in Ward 5. Donde caben seis, caben siete. Where 6 will fit, so will 7. This is one of my favorite Spanish sayings. I picture people sitting around a dinner table, scooching closer together to fit in one more chair for one more person. The scenario is homey, but to imagine that 6 or 7 can be extrapolated by an order of 1,000 or 10,000 and applied to our community is crazy. I believe that the density allowed by the comprehensive plan will result only in more housing choice for the wealthy. Density alone cannot solve our affordable housing crisis. It will bring only more housing for the wealthy and more profits for developers. La clavija no cabe en el agujero. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mary Howley Wiesel. I am in Ward 1 at 635 Swift Street, which is just in Lower Town, right by Cycles and the Beekman and that area of town. We border the Huron River, and my concern is I've spoken a number of times to you, and we still are in a transitional zone. And my concern is protecting the riverfront area and also the historical areas. Lower Town was initially lower and middle income individuals. You're right. We were the immigrants. We were the ones that had the stockyards, the lumber yards. We worked the railroads. And so to see what is going to be and what is now with the Beekman, with a transitional zone, it will just be that much worse. And as a retired teacher, my concern is for the future. It's always the future. But also in my classroom, I do want to just take a moment and thank you, Commissioner Mills, because I've been watching all of the commissioners. And as far as I know what having technology in the classroom and how it diverts attention with my previous students. But I also want to just thank you for your direct attention when we have our speakers, because the number one thing is all we want to be is heard. We want to have our input. We want to have a direct impact in the community that I've lived in for over 65 years, and my family has lived in over 150 years. So what we're trying to ask for you is to take a moment, backpedal, pause, if that's the terminology, but to give us a little bit more time to impress upon you how important this plan is, that there's not the rush. It doesn't have to happen today, and it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. We want want to protect our smaller subdivision neighborhoods. It's not a subdivision down on Wright Street, Pontiac, and Traver, and our lower town areas. Those are neighborhoods. Those are people that we've known forever. And to have a transitional zone will totally annihilate that neighborhood feel. I don't care about individuals moving into our community for 2 to 3 years. I am concerned about the people that can live here indefinitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Alice Ralph. I live on 1607 East Stadium Boulevard. It's been designated as a transition zone, which I think is significant to the social fabric that we all look for in a neighborhood. I don't like the thought of my neighborhood changing, but no one cares about Stadium Boulevard except on football days. There is no parking on my street, no curbside parking, but we went from three travel lanes, one east, one west, and one for waiting to turn into our driveways. We now have 5. We have bike lanes in addition. It's a very dense street with not much opportunity for social interaction. And I think that social interaction and the desire to make friends, to raise children, to walk to work, as many people who work at the university do, I think all of that is missing. There is no heart to this plan. And I just want to let you know that there is somebody who lives on it in a proposed transition zone. There are lots of us, but we can hardly even wave to each other across the street because of the densification that has occurred over the years through added lanes and just the difficulty of living on East Stadium Boulevard, which when you drive in from the east or the west, you see trees. That's the first thing you see. You don't see the houses because there are lots of trees. We may lose a significant number of them, and we all know how important that is for sustainable living. So I just wanted to let you know there is somebody willing to talk about living in a proposed transition zone, and I'm not happy about it, and I'm sure not many people are, if they even know what it means.
Thank you.
Hello, Planning Commission. Shannon Lau, 2870 Oakdale Drive. I'm here in support of the comprehensive plan. I feel like I've said a few things on it before, but going back into what excites me about this plan, I'm excited that after we get through the planning and the zoning, then maybe some more homes can be built, that we have more varieties of different shapes and sizes. I'm excited that we have this affordable housing millage and we get to fund it even more when we build more housing. We also get to support more affordability by having more supply overall. I'm really excited that with more people living in Ann Arbor, it's not a question for people of, is transit viable? Is this going to work for me, when we can actually support it together? I'm excited that local businesses don't need to decide or question as hard, is my business going to survive in this neighborhood? Because there is density already to support it. Thank you for all of your work in this. It's been a long process and there's still more to go, but you've spent a lot of time listening to all of these suggestions and all these comments, and I appreciate that, and I hope that you forward the comprehensive land use plan to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I think we have been having some of these conversations now for upwards of 6 months. So I'm always confused, just me personally coming to meetings for more than 6 months. That is, aside from other extensive work, stuff that has gone back to 2019. And so I don't want to talk about the plan anymore. I want to talk about the stuff that people have been talking about, which is the zoning. But we can't get to the zoning until the plan is done. So if you want to know about setbacks, you want to know about height limits, you want to think about form, I'm actually really bummed that we got rid of form-based zoning. We need to get there. Some of the things that people have asked for happens in the zoning. We are so far from a fait accompli. Someone actually said that I had jumped the ship in my credibility because I said it was going to take us a while to rezone the whole city. It was not going to happen, in 2025. It wasn't going to be done in 2026. And I know that many of you have tried to communicate this to people, and I would just ask that you continue to do so, and that perhaps today when you reply, you can make some comments that I know many of you have already made about how you imagine transition tapering down to residential, how you are thinking about some of these types, and why certain parts of the city along transit corridors, and I know this is written in the plan, were chosen to be labeled transition. I understand that it's very frustrating to say the same thing over and over again and get called a liar, get called corrupt, be told that you are under the thrall of an evil, tall, skinny mayor. But I also know that you're working really hard. And I'm not going to say you're working really hard, but you're doing it wrong. What I'm going to say is you're working really hard, and I hope that people will listen to you when you explain those choices and explain what happens next so that once they know the facts, not what has been told to them because their neighbors have misled them, but so they can know the facts and move forward with confidence that the process doesn't end tonight, doesn't end in 63 days, doesn't end in February or March of next year, that it's going to be ongoing. And so the idea that this is rushed, the idea that we are speeding through this cannot be further than the proof, but I hope that we don't drag it out longer than it needs to be. It's cold outside, and I don't want to be here in February at 11 p.m. at night if I don't have to be. Thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Hannah Stanton-Gogol. I live in Ward 2. I'm a graduate student, and I am 1/12 a homeowner, and that might be the closest I get to owning a home here in Ann Arbor without a plan for high-density housing and mixed-use development. I live in an independently run, affordable housing co-op, and I want to tell you about it. This is a co-op for Michigan graduate students. It's a nonprofit organization that owns the house. It is called Gamma Alpha Scientific Fraternity, and we have been at our current location in a single-family zone neighborhood since 1950. We're highly organized and collaborative. All 12 residents have a house job. I spent 5 hours doing yard work this weekend. The built-in community, an opportunity to invest in my home, has made my time in Ann Arbor more meaningful and richer in every way. And because of the low rent and the fact that we share resources, which include pantry staples like sweet potatoes, flour, onions, spices, and butter, that means that I am less food insecure even when my food budget is tight. But today specifically, I knew that I could stretch my $100 a month food budget a little further because our neighbors brought food here today, and I invite anyone who is hungry to go over there and enjoy that food. The comp plan has the opportunity to set the stage for zoning that prioritizes unique and affordable living situations like mine. Please move forward with the plan, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Sani Bonani, this is Alex Lowe, and I brought some cheese and crackers. I'd like to thank the people who are complaining about the food for bringing the wine. I live in Pittsfield Village, one of the lowest income areas in Ann Arbor, and we're currently undergoing some wonderful infrastructure improvements as part of the Pittsfield Village Improvement Project. But I'm going to digress for a moment and tell a random story about Napoleon specifically. The British thought Napoleon was short because his height was 5'2". But of course that was in French feet. When converted to British feet and inches, he was 5'7", taller than the average person at the time. Funny how so many things that people believe to be immutable are actually not. Anyway, previous commenters spoke about infrastructure, and given that the storms in March resulted in a surprise indoor pool in my basement, I'm understanding of that fact. So I looked it up. As it turned out, there are whole separate comprehensive plans for stormwater, sanitary sewers, and water distribution available on engage.a2gov.org. And they even have their own public comment. It is unfortunate that Brandolini's law prevents me from responding to the false and contradictory claims repeated by a few folks who seem to have the only goal of make Ann Arbor great again by building absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone and continuing the money printing machines for slumlords and other housing hoarders. But please remember, in 2024, Kamala Harris's progressive agenda included many of the things listed in this comprehensive plan and many things it enables, such as expanded public transit. Donald Trump's conservative agenda included things like preserving exclusionary simplex zoning, environmentally harmful setback laws, and more environmentally destructive automobile dependence. So let's build Ann Arbor for all, not just for the wealthy elites that Michigan continues to subsidize through Prop A. Let's not just be not racist, let's be anti-racist. Let's be anti-classist. Let's oppose economic segregation. And let us be the progressive Ann Arbor the vast majority of us claim to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen White, 2719 Cranbrook. That's in a transitional zone. You've drawn your map so that half my neighborhood disappears into a transitional zone. Thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Mills for actually making eye contact. You ladies, not making much eye contact. I really appreciate everybody's viewpoint here tonight. I disagree profoundly with the last speaker. I would point out that the Koch brothers are the ones who are pushing this bullshit line about single-family zoning being exclusionary. I would point out that you are gambling with my family's future, with 25 years of investment in the schools and in the civic organizations in these meetings. You are going to make it impossible for us to stay in our home. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else in chamber would like to address the commission? Ms. John, you've already spoken.
Is that not allowed to speak again?
You are not during this time. Thank you, though.
If we want to be anti-racist,
But
I just
now
wanted
you-
to note that the only two cis white men on the board refuse to look at anybody who's giving comment. I think it's kind of weird.
We do have one hand raised online, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
If you
only
would
one. Let's hear from them.
like to move to Mr. Vasquez, you have permission to address the Planning Commission for 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Greetings. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Terrific. Thank you. Luis Vasquez, 909 Barton Drive in Upper Lower Town. Lower Town, which has street names like Broadway, Wall Street, Maiden Lane, and Canal Street. Do you know why those streets were named that way? Well, it turns out that the founders of Ann Arbor 200 years ago envisioned a mini New York on the Huron River. Imagine that. Now, granted, the New York City of the early 1800s was, didn't have all the high rises that it has now, but they envisioned a dense environment full of activity, full of life, full of people. And I think that what we need to do in Ann Arbor is to accelerate the plan. Please accelerate the plan. Please push it forward tonight to City Council so that we can get this done. We are still in the midst of a severe housing shortage. And I would just point to the most recent example of how Ann Arborites really feel about the prospects of development. And that is the vote that was just taken in August for developing the library lot by a margin of nearly 2-1. That should tell you something. That should tell all my neighbors something about how Ann Arborites want to see the city grow and to build more affordable housing. I'm really liking all the high-rises that are going up downtown. I think there should be more of them. I think they should be allowed to be taller. And I think there needs to be more development within the neighborhoods, triplexes, quadplexes, 3 and 4 stories high. Those are my personal feelings. But once again, please accelerate the plan. Thank you for all of the hard work that you've been putting into this over the past 2 years. And I'm not sure where everybody was, but certainly I know that I've been invited to participate in pushing forward
I'm sorry,
ideas.
Mr. Vasquez, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is an additional hand raised, phone number ending in 194. You have permission to address Planning Commission.
Hello, excuse me, this is Rita Mitchell. I'm a member of the newly constituted Sustainability Commission, and I'm speaking for myself tonight. My concerns focus on natural features, in particular retaining existing trees and vegetation. They're part of and support biodiversity, the living, complex entities of which we people are a part. I want the future of Ann Arbor to provide opportunities for everyone who lives or visits here to have direct contact with nature. Every street and piece of property should have trees and vegetation that provide habitats and links for wildlife. I'm concerned that the comprehensive plan is threatening to minimize setbacks and remove trees and place buildings on lot lines. That's a real concern as we move forward. Where will people see birds and insects that land on plants and move away around with the wind? I want to make sure that people understand and feel nature so that they do want to protect it in the future, both within the city and outside. The thread that connects many comments tonight and has for a long time is protection of green spaces by compressing housing and avoiding housing outside the city limits. I observe that development is becoming more intense outside of Ann Arbor, regardless of what we do within city limits. We don't have control over townships that are already densifying more and more, along with Ann Arbor. We need to work together with them, and we need to figure this out in a better way than I feel we are going right now. I want to call out the lack of conversation, outreach with true dialogue and exchange of ideas, and deep listening with thoughtful consideration of issues that are raised and respectful work together to address issues. I feel like there's been a one-way conversation, not an exchange. And I want to just thank Mr. Westphal for displaying his opinion of one of the characteristics that attracts many people to our city, as demonstrated by years of Ann Arbor, of cover sheets of the Ann Arbor Observer. We don't see new towers on that publication. What calls people to us is historic districts that are not equal to house museums. That's really disrespectful, and I'm sorry to have heard his opinion. And I really hope that as we move forward, that another thing that we don't have is tree museums. I'm hoping that we have trees that we live with day to day, and that they are not just confined to parks, So please, let's work together. I'd ask you to pause the plan, think it through, do stronger outreach, and be comprehensive with the outreach so that you have a solid way to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more hand raised. Could I ask if any of our virtual attendees raise their hand now if they intend to speak? Thank you. Eric Ivanchik, you have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Good evening. I would like to echo many others' remarks about thanking the Planning Commission for all of their hard work and for all the committee members who have been participating in the process for in excess of 2 years. This has not been a fast process. It's been slow and methodical. And I think the amazing results have shown themselves in the third draft of the plan. I want to echo Mr. Vasquez's comments a few callers ago in saying let's accelerate the plan. There is a housing crisis. So I've seen people shake their heads when that's been mentioned previously by other commenters, and that's obviously true. We've heard testimonies from people talking before you in previous meetings about how they struggle to find a house that they can afford within the city. I'd also like to mention that the woman who spoke before me about 3 people ago cast doubt on whether single-family housing is exclusionary zoning. And it most definitely is. Single-family housing was created in Berkeley specifically to keep certain people out of certain neighborhoods. And we've seen that effect in a modern-day Ann Arbor as well. It's achieved that result. People with lower incomes tend to live on the edges of the city and not inside the closer-in neighborhoods. And because of many past historical injustices and systemic racism, income and wealth are correlated with race, and we see those racial divides as well. I live in the 3rd Ward in the Allen neighborhood, and there's no way that my neighborhood represents the diversity of the city as a whole. And that's by design. That's due to single-family housing and single-family zoning. So keep up the good work. Let's accelerate the process. And I look forward to what Ann Arbor has in its future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
All right, seeing none, we shall close the public hearing. That takes us to agenda item number 7, communication from commissioners. Is there any? We'll start with Commissioner Mills, and then we'll go to Councilmember Dish.
Thanks. And I really sincerely want to thank everyone who came out tonight and gave your Tuesday evening to share what makes Ann Arbor special to you and your vision for the future. Like, legitimately, thank you. Thank you for listening respectfully to other people's comments. And I mean, I hope you see the position that we are in, right? Like, and really, truly listening to other people's comments. We are not done. No matter what happens here tonight, this is not done. I've been making a handwritten list of the specific edits that people are pointing out. Those things are really helpful for us. So overall, like, general things, yes, please come and share your views, but specific pages, like, the more specific you can be, the easier it is for me to help suggest edits. So I want to thank you for that. There was a question about, like, where we are. My house is in a transition zone. And that is what I call my home. I'm currently a renter in Ann Arbor while I remodel that house that is in a transition zone. We've been saving up. I am comfortable with that, in part because, I mean, maybe it's because I sit at this table, so I have a direct vote on some things, though I can get overruled, and sometimes do. But I think it's because some of the language that we have included throughout the plan is something that is really important to me. So there was a question, though, specifically, and I think that the woman who asked about what's allowed in transition zones left, but I'm going to say it in case she comes back and watches this online. in the table, and I'm looking on page 113, residential, commercial office, industrial uses that do not create nuisance or hazards, and a preference for active first floor on arterial roads. So those are the specific uses. But I think that the table on page 112 and 113 in particular helps lay out kind of what is imagined in each of those different areas, which are not really zones, but that is really important for the zone. Like, this is counting as a zoning plan that will help us think about the next step of zoning. The other thing that I would just say in terms of comfort, or why, one of the features I think that is now in draft 3 that I don't know was in draft 1, is thinking through something that got brought up about who's benefiting. Is this really going to help housing? And I went back and made sure that this was when this got sent. So if you want, I was actually on vacation for the June 17th meeting, but I forwarded comments from an email that I had received to my work thing, because I'm signed up for this Momentum to Build Community, is the list. And it's all about, the title of the email is How to Make Housing Affordable Beyond Band-Aids to Real Solutions. And in this communication that I forwarded on for consideration, they've talked about 3 paths. The first path to affordable housing is the subsidy route, and they talk about, like, that's what a lot of people are thinking about, and kind of some of the drawbacks of that, or not relying entirely on that. The second path is in this thing titled Remove Barriers for Big Developers, and I hear a lot of that, right? Like, is this just a win for big developers? One of the things, the third path that they talk is the abundance path, the real solution, creating systems that support both large-scale developers and a small army of small-scale builders. The reason I'm pointing you to this is that I've been, and I think I need to go back and do all of the considerations, but it really talks about things like setting maximum building sizes as the way that you get the duplexes and triplexes that you're looking for. It was the first diagram that I saw, along with zoning, about how we can make this work. I want this to be an affordable place for my kids to live. They are in middle school and elementary school now, so like goodness only knows, right? And so I know that we need to create spaces for them. And I got 2 kids and only 1 house that they can inherit someday, right? So like, I want to make sure that that there's space. And so I'm really trying to figure out, and I think all of us are trying to figure out, like, how you do this. Like, what are the protections? Yes, we need big projects, and there's space in our plan for big projects. And I also think in the residential area in particular, like, I think that there are ways that we can do this that allow for creating that missing middle. And if people haven't checked out that diagram, I encourage you to do that. Thank you again for everyone coming out.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Councilmember Dish.
I want to echo those thanks for everyone who came. I want to be clear that I am always listening. I am not always looking up. I am often taking notes. I am often scrabbling through my notes to figure out how to respond to the things that you are raising. And what I have heard is that you have all said that you care about housing affordability. And I believe you. I don't think there's anyone in here simply expressing selfish visions of the future. I think everyone here cares about affordability. Everyone has been, it's been very recent that everything has totally skyrocketed. Ann Arbor's never been cheap, but prices here have skyrocketed in the last decade. We've all seen it. You can feel it. You can see it in who's moving in and who's not moving in. Maybe you have children who cannot live here. We are all seeing this, and you all care about this. Many of you have expressed that this plan will not make Ann Arbor more affordable. it will send it in the other direction. And I think one thing that we all need to acknowledge is that none of us has a crystal ball. So we do not know how all of these reforms are going to affect this city. But not having a crystal ball means that the best we can do is look at evidence. And that means not just speaking from what I fear will happen or what someone has prompted me to think will happen, but to look at studies and evidence and theories and proof of theories. And so I would like to tell you, based on evidence, there's a terrific study that's summarized in the Housing Literature Review, which is part of the data appendix. It's by Myers and Park. And they tell you one thing that they didn't have to do research to find out, which is that the single largest source of affordable housing now is achieved through low-income tax credit monies. It used to be what's called HUD money, housing and urban development. Those programs are not in existence. All right, so everything now is done through purchasing low-income housing tax credits. And that is how your millage money is being used to create affordable housing in Ann Arbor. It is being leveraged. Right now, I think we can get about $5 for every $1, which is great. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still great. The second largest by a lot, this is 75%, of affordable housing that gets created. And here we're talking missing middle, all right? And also lower income, but it's not income qualified. Happens when housing, it happens through market housing. It happens through market housing that is open to everyone and that becomes cheaper over time. And this is a study, this is not a theoretical claim, this is a factual claim based on a factual study. So from 2000 to 2011, this process of housing aging over time provided 75% as many units, as many affordable housing units as did LIHTC funding. And then, after 2011, the market lost 6 million affordable housing units. Why did that happen? Because in 1970, in this city and many others, cities stopped building at scale. In 1970, the effect of minimum lot size laws that were enacted here largely in the 60s started to take hold, and a minimum lot size law raises the price of the housing that is on it in residential neighborhoods because it says you need to be able to buy this much land before you can build your house. And you can build a little house, you can build a giant house, but you're going to have to buy this much land, no matter how much house you can actually afford. That raises the price of entry into homeownership. And that raised cost, that decreased diversity in this city. You can look at page 236 of the PDF of this plan, including its appendices, and you will see a graph. And that graph, which is on page 236 of the PDF or page 20 of the housing appendix, not the literature review, the appendix, you will see that today in Ann Arbor, housing built through between 1970 and 2009 cost 20% less than housing built later than that. So that's the effect of that mechanism that we're talking about. In Ann Arbor. You can see it in Ann Arbor. Now, what do we do to get that mechanism working again? We have to build. Not building is not the way to get it back working again. Building is the only way. That is not the only way for us to get affordable housing, but it is a way for us to get affordable housing. And by build, I mean build things that are taller than 3 stories and that exist along roads that are well served by transit. That is how you do it. So if you care about it, this plan, the transition zone and the hub zone are the ways you do it. As far as I know, the Wright Street neighborhood is transition or residential because we could not figure out which to make it. So that is you, transition or residential. And transition itself starts at residential heights. So you're not necessarily going to get any more height than what you have. I need to stop there. There is more that I could say. I would like to say that on page 160, there is a definition of affordable housing.
Thank you, Councilmember. Commissioner Weatherby?
So I think
and then Commissioner Adams, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Weatherby.
So there was a question on...
Into your mic, please.
Where we live, and I just wanted to give a little background of my experience in Ann Arbor and where I live and where my house would end up in the new zoning plan. So my parents met in a boarding house on Hill Street run by my aunt. They got married, moved to Nob Hill, which is very close to my house now. They lived in the apartments at Nob Hill for several years. And I grew up in Ann Arbor. I did a daycare on Glacier Way before it was Glacier Way, and when it was a dirt road still. I went to Thurston, got moved to Freeman School, which is no longer it's not part of the school system anymore. Clegg, Huron. I then went away to school. I lived in Boulder, met my husband who grew up in Boulder. And so my in-laws live there, so I am very comfortable and know a lot about Boulder. Then moved to Boston and then decided I really liked Ann Arbor and we moved back here. I've lived in Ann Arbor for over 50 years. We have a house. I live on Main Street. It will be in a transition zone 1 block from a hub. So I do not fear that my life will be upended because it is currently a multifamily residential zone. And there are apartments near me and the people are really nice. They're my neighbors. It's not a big deal. I look out on my trees. I look out on houses. I look out on apartments. It's fine. The first time we had a new apartment being built, I was really worried. I thought, what's going to happen to my house? What's going to happen to me? How can I live here? And it turns out that it didn't affect me at all. I mean, there were a few more dogs in the neighborhood. That was kind of cool because people were walking their dogs. But it did not affect me and my property at all. And so that's the perspective that I come from. I'm not trying to push this on somebody that I wouldn't have in my own life. I live it, and it is a lovely life. I have access to transit. I walk places. I walk here. And I live in a single-family house, and I'm not planning to move anytime soon as long as we can take care of the house. But should my neighbors move and it becomes replaced with an apartment building, that's not a problem. Like, I like people, and I like living around people, and I live in a city, and that's the perspective that I bring. So and anybody's welcome to knock on the door of my house and have some tea or some cookies. I bake a lot. If you want to see what it's like to live in a zone that's surrounded by high-density housing and probably will have more, it's not bad, is what I can say. I was looking at historic districts, and just one thing that somebody mentioned Minneapolis and Boulder, and Ann Arbor already has more buildings in our historic districts than either Minneapolis or Boulder. So that's just a reference point. And let's see, I think that was, and just food. Anyone who's welcome to bring food. Again, like I said, I like to bake. I'll bring food. Sabra Breer, some of you remember, who was on city council, always brought chocolates. That was always fun. And I really appreciate people bringing food. And if anyone wants to bring food, we could have just buffets here. I think that would be great. But that was just a comment on the food issue. And I think I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherby. Commissioner Adams.
Daniel Adams, 1016 Daniel Street. When I bought my home in 2012, my neighbors to my north were middle-income renters, and my neighbors to the south were renters in a duplex, and they are long gone. My house has tripled in value. It used to be a starter home and is no longer a starter home. The rental to my north sold a few years ago for a price that 10 years prior would have been astonishing to anybody who follows the real estate market. Displacement, and here I mean displacement in the form of people who cannot afford to resist it, is occurring all around us, and in particular in my neighborhood. It's been going on since I bought my home and probably before that. We've heard a lot tonight about hypothetical future displacement that might happen under a hypothetical future set of zoning laws. And I'm cognizant of that, but it's happening, and I want to note that it's happening in my neighborhood and in many neighborhoods in the city now, mostly unchecked, constantly. And it's doing harm to people. This isn't, I don't know what type of displacement is beneficial. There's probably a version of it that's normal or natural, but what's happening now in many neighborhoods is not. The people who are harmed by that displacement can't come to these meetings. Many of them don't live in the city anymore. The people who are struggling in the face of that pressure, many of those people can't come to these meetings, and I want to note that. But that's all a long way of saying that the status quo of zoning that makes it illegal or prohibitively expensive to build housing is not stopping in any way harmful change. It certainly isn't working for us. The bedrock of the plan, I think, is composed of many components, but not least of those components is the legislative directive that we have to make it, and I'm quoting here from the resolution that kicked off this process 2 years ago, for us to make recommendations for adding new homes and densification in single-family zone areas and in other areas and in zoning districts. That's a policy judgment, but as Councilmember Dish noted earlier in her comments, that's grounded in a robust and growing body of peer-reviewed research, and that research helpfully is summarized in detail and with citations in the plan. We asked staff to do that so that you would have access to it. There's an appendix at the end of the draft, and that research supports, in brief, the following propositions. New construction decreases rents or slows the rates of rental increases in proximity to the construction and for the city overall. Stated differently, when the supply of available homes goes down relative to demand, prices tend to increase. That's a general statement, but that's well supported by the research that we have. There are two mechanisms, filtering and vacancy chains. Those both operate when you build expensive market rate units that seem expensive and out of reach and seem to be increasing the price of a community's housing stock. Over time, they depreciate and turn into the middle market stuff that we are missing. And I have examples, and I've cited them in these meetings, of buildings that when they went up in the 70s, the vanishingly few buildings in the city that did go up, many of those buildings are now what we would call more affordable, more middle income housing. They're not really because of our housing crisis, but they're certainly cheaper. We also know that when you build market rate housing, the vacancy chain effect opens up downstream opportunities for people. And going back to my own experience, and one of our public commenters asked us to talk about our experiences. I'm a highly paid attorney. I wanted to live in a wealthier neighborhood in the city, and when we looked around, we didn't have a lot of options. So we bought in a tier under that at the time. And what we did was we took a starter home off the market, and we've helped turn our neighborhood into a higher income neighborhood. And that's the dynamic that more supply reverses, or at least helps to reverse. It's going to take time. Third, new housing construction is not a material factor in displacement. And it's offset. You can offset that displacement through the use of subsidies, which we are already doing and already pursuing. And finally, zoning reform by itself does not cause change to occur. Zoning reform is not by itself a silver bullet for affordability, and I don't think anybody on this panel thinks that. But, quoting here from the plan, while lifting zoning constraints will not cause cities to grow, not lifting them will ensure that they cannot. We're trying to reverse some of that with the plan, which will, in turn, create zoning changes later on. With respect to pausing the plan, this process has not been rushed. Public meetings on this initiative have been going on for over 2 years. The document itself has been debated actively at this table since January of 2025. This is the third draft. I encourage anyone who has concerns about the extent to which public comment, your comments have shaped the material provisions of this document, to go review those 2 prior drafts, which are available on the city's website, plus the 2 council resolutions that directed this body to make specific changes to the document in response to your feedback. The third draft is a vastly different document, and that reflects largely, I would argue, not our ideas, but an enormous amount of staff and consultant work and feedback, public feedback, sincere, sustained, good faith efforts on our part to accommodate the different voices in our community who do have different views on what the plan should say about the future of the city. The plan is a compromise. It's a balance of competing values. Compromises inevitably involve some people being disappointed in the outcome. We are not going to agree on everything, and that's okay. But suggestions that a 2-year public process has been something other than fully transparent and participatory, that we are railroading the public or ramming this through, are flatly untrue. The process of arriving at the draft that we are considering to send to council tonight to start the review process has been long. Longer than I expected it would take, I think longer than our original timeline contemplated that it would take. In that sense, the plan has already been paused. That additional time, I think, was well spent. We started this spring with a good document. I think we're looking at a great document tonight that balances various community interests and that maps a future that will help us meet our community's needs more fully, more equitably, and more justly than we currently are. I'm excited to send it to council to start the review process. I'll be voting to do that tonight. But that process doesn't stop the public engagement. It's a 63-day notice and comment period. So if you have additional thoughts or concerns, you should continue to express them, and we will continue to listen.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Norton.
I think it's fair for folks to want to know where planning commissioners are coming from and what our experiences are. You should know that the process that we use for engaging in these conversations is structured, and it's structured so that we don't get into shouting matches with folks. And that is useful so that we don't get into shouting matches, but it's awkward too. And that's just a challenge that we have to work with. I want folks to know I am not paying attention to it. I'm looking at all of you. I really process information best when I write it as I'm hearing it. It helps me think about it and learn it and remember it. I've been writing notes for all of the meetings I've been sitting at. I've been listening to you, and I've been trying to take stock of what everybody's saying. I have to say I'm a little bit offended that someone who probably would have been very upset if she had been typecast or characterized was typecasting me and characterizing me a bit unfairly, I think. I'm a little bit shocked by some of the personal vitriol that has been flung at members of the Planning Commission. It's not fair. It's unfair. Nobody up here is a tool of the mayor. Nobody is here as a tool of the growth machine. We're all up here because we care about this city too, and we're trying to do our best. A little bit of grace would be nice. Thank you. And I'm really kind of surprised that I'm feeling like I have to defend myself for that after all of the things we've been going for. So a little bit of grace, please. I agree with my folks, the planning commissioners have gone before. I moved to Ann Arbor in 2001. We moved into the Dickin neighborhood. It's a strictly residential R1 neighborhood. I walked a lot, but you couldn't really walk anywhere to get to anything in that neighborhood. We had good friends and neighbors, but I didn't really see very many folks out and about much when I lived in that neighborhood. About 10 years ago, we had the great good fortune to be able to buy a home in the Old West Side, so we now live on 3rd Street. So I'm in an historic district, and I love it there. I love it for two things. I love old homes. I'll disagree with my good friend Kirk. I wouldn't characterize them as house museums. I'll push back on that a little bit too. I totally agree that historic districts bring some value to the community, and there's something meaningful about the places that we're in. I'm also very mindful that my historic district is becoming an incredibly expensive place to live. In fact, the home value, we couldn't afford to buy the house we're now if we tried to buy it now because home values are going up so much. And at the same time, there are more people. It's an R2 district, so I have multiple family units surrounding me, and I know my neighbors in the Old West Side way better than I ever knew my neighbors in the Dickin neighborhood. There's a lot more walking that goes along, that we interact with our neighbors a lot more. You can have multifamily units in old historic districts, and people get along just fine. So I understand the fears that people are feeling. I was a little bit nervous when we moved from the Dickin neighborhood into the Old West Side because I knew we were going to be moving next to rental apartments. It's turned out to be fine. I totally understand folks' fears about change and what might be coming. I understand that, and you sit and shake your head, no, I can't possibly.
Well, I'm not hearing that. I'm really not. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I just want to, can we suspend so that we can hear from the commissioner, because there are other commissioners that like to speak as well. Go ahead, Commissioner Norton.
I do hear you, and I understand your concerns, and I'm also trying to balance all of the concerns we're hearing of everybody coming in and standing for us and all of the different pressures we're feeling in this system. And I want to push back and suggest that just because you don't feel like your voice is being fully heard doesn't mean it's a corrupt process. We're in the difficult position of having to reconcile multiple competing values, some of which are just not compatible with each other. How do we do that? That's the struggle that we're facing. I am concerned about private investors and the kind of real estate speculation that people are worried about. I have two thoughts on that. One is, ever since there's been new growth and development, people have worried about you're just setting up the groundwork for developers to come in and make gobs of money. That's all this is about. Everybody in the city lives in a home that was built by a developer. And chances were, most of the people in this city live in homes that were built by developers. And chances were the folks who lived there first weren't too happy with what was going in next door to them when that was built. So we have to kind of take that in mind. And then the other position is more of a legal position. We, by law, have the authority to regulate by use. We cannot regulate by ownership. That's the law. We regulate by use. We don't regulate by ownership. We can't say, if you're a certain kind of person or a certain kind of investor, you can't come here or buy here. That legally, we can't do that. All we can do is regulate by the kinds of land uses that are going into the building. So we're constrained. I'm concerned about that factor. I'm struggling a bit myself on how we reconcile it given what we're able to do legally and how things work. So these are all things that we are struggling with mightily and trying to figure out how to proceed and go the best way forward. That was a little bit more of a personal statement than I set out to make. I do appreciate folks coming and talking to us. I went to every one of the workshops that was held, the planning staff added, and I listened to everybody closely, and I'm still struggling to figure out how to reconcile some of these things. We can't make everybody happy. We're doing the best we can. Please, some grace. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Norton. Commissioner Hammersmith.
Thank you. I really appreciate everything that my fellow commissioners said. I think probably said it better than I can. But I would just like to add that saying that this plan was not done with any public input really does a disservice to the many, many people who provided input in various ways over the past almost 2 years. We also have here in this chamber, including tonight, listened to extensive public comment since March. And we have made changes to the plan based on those comments. We are never going to have 100% consensus, and that's not the goal here. And it does not mean that we're not listening. The intent of the plan is to be a guide for development moving forward. After the months of public comment on this plan, I think it's clear we're never going to have full agreement on what that development should look like. But I just want to say I'm really grateful to the consultants, the staff for their tremendously hard work on this plan, and also to my fellow commissioners and the public, like yourselves, who have taken time to talk to us about your thoughts on the future of Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Abrams.
I don't have a lot to add because everybody has said a lot of the things that I was thinking and were very eloquent, but I just wanted to share a couple of things. I appreciate everybody's personal stories. I'm a little reluctant to share mine because maybe similar to Commissioner Norton, I feel a little upset that the implication is that I stand to personally profit from this plan based on where I live. Which feels pretty nasty thing to imply. But so I'll just say I live in an R1C neighborhood close to West Stadium Boulevard, and I don't stand to personally profit from this plan. The other things I have are kind of dry, but I just want to really correct the record. So in some of the written communication we've gotten in some of the comments this evening, people are talking about lot line to lot line development in residential neighborhoods. There's nothing in here which indicates that this body or the plan set as a guideline a desire to move towards zero setbacks in residential neighborhoods. And we're not talking about setbacks in the plan to be shady. That's actually not the appropriate place to define those things. That will happen in implementation. But there's no intention to have zero setbacks in residential neighborhoods. I also have heard something about setting site limits, and again, that's something which is more appropriately done in implementation, but that will be a very robust debate around height limits for triplexes, duplexes, et cetera, or really every new zoning category when we get there. And then I also just want to remind everybody that even though you're where you live on the future land use map might currently show transition, that does not mean that there's going to be a 10-story building next to you or that your house is going to get bulldozed tomorrow. It just means that, like, if you read the land use plan, particularly if you go to the chart on page 112 and 113, which kind of lays out all these future land use categories, it says context-sensitive height, lower, smaller, adjacent to residential. We have always talked about that zoning district as one which would pay attention to what it's adjacent to and would have height limits based on its adjacency to residential neighborhoods. So I just really want to remind people that, because I think that there's a fear which is coming from some misinformation which is being spread. And then I also just will echo gratitude and appreciation for everybody who comes out and speaks to us, whether you agree with the plan or don't agree with the plan or are super critical or feeling passionate and angry or feeling complimentary. It doesn't really matter. This kind of level of engagement is great, and we welcome it. We are not resistant to it at all. We want it. Thanks.
Thank you. I wanted to just piggyback off of Commissioner Mills' comment around the industrial. I think the speaker's name was Janice Hodges, who came to ask about what was going to happen. I'm sorry, go ahead. Jamie. Well, that would explain why it looks like Jamie on my notes. And I was trying, it actually looks like James, and I was like, it wasn't James, so I went with Janice. Thank you. No, seriously, and I scratched it out. Commissioner Abrams can see this. Thank you, Senior Planner Bennett. That senior means a lot. Commissioner Mills already noted what's going to happen in industrial, so I wanted to make sure that got answered. I also, and we'll talk about this in just a minute after we take a break, this is not a done deal. Everyone keeps communicating with us as if everything is going to stop today. It's not. It's going to continue, and it's going to continue. As a matter of fact, we are still implementing the comprehensive plan from 2009. Like, we did not finish that process, just so that everybody in the room knows. So this is not a one and done, and as a matter of fact, every 5 years, we have to, at this table, decide, do we want to take up the plan? Do we want to make changes? Or are we still in an implementation phase? So this is not like concluded in any way. And I think my colleagues at the table have already expressed it, but I'll just say it again. This plan is different than where it started. I appreciate Commissioner Adams saying some people will be disappointed. You know who's disappointed? I am. I am disappointed. I live in an R1C, and my council members have decided to exclude my neighborhood from upzoning. I want more housing in my neighborhood, and I was told no. I'm disappointed. I'm absolutely disappointed. I want the kids that go to school with my kids to live in our neighborhood. I want my son to be able to play with his friends who, because they can't live in my neighborhood, they have to be driven in. They have to be bused in. I want my daughter's friend, who she does aerial with every week, to live around the corner, not 3 miles away. I want them to have what I had, was a rich neighborhood full of friends where they could be free to operate in this city as if the city was built for them. So I appreciate what Commissioner Adams says. There are some people who will be disappointed. I'm one of them. With that, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and resume our meeting. All right, we are back. Thank you all, and thank you for those of you who are still here with us. We are now on agenda item number 9, unfinished business. There is none. Nope.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, I'm going there. I'm going there right now. We are on agenda item number 8, which are public hearings scheduled for the next business meeting, and we will hear from Manager Kelly.
There is a site plan for Planning Commission approval scheduled for your Thursday, October 16, 2025 meeting. This meeting will start at 5:30 p.m. We are putting this in our announcements. In lieu of it being a formal public hearing, this will be a dedicated public comment period for the project 350 South 5th Street. The PUD site plan for Planning Commission approval. This is a proposed site plan to develop a mixed-use building containing ground floor retail and 330 apartments on a 0.8-acre site, Zone 350 South 5th PUD. The building would be a 313,000 square foot site with, building with 20 stories. Site improvements include creating a shared service drive along the north side of the site from South 5th Ave to South 4th Ave for solid waste access and future use by AAATA for additional bus boardings. The zoning district and supplemental regulations were approved by Ordinance 22-03 on April 4th, 2022. And I will note that this meeting will take place in the basement of City Hall due to a conflict with OSI for council chambers.
All right. Thank you. Now we will move on to agenda item number 9, unfinished business. There is none. Then that takes us to agenda item number 10, regular business. There is none, which now brings us to agenda item number 11, other business. This is the review of the comprehensive land use plan, third draft. The third draft of the comprehensive plan is introduced to the Planning Commission tonight. Per the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, the Planning Commission may forward this draft to the City Council to request approval to begin the 63-day review period. We will start with a staff presentation by Senior Planner Michelle Bennett.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, draft 3 is here. I know, thank you. Okay, let me do this full screen and then hopefully I can, okay. I had already started with this, but just to bring us back, as a part of the adoption process, the first step is for Planning Commission to forward this to Council. If you choose to do that tonight, then this will be slated for the October 20th Council meeting for them to approve to begin the 63-day review period. The actual adoption of this plan would not take place until what we have here is February or March. Of course, that's going to depend on what happens on October 20th. So this is still subject to change, but this is our current timeline. I want to bring us back to the resolution that was made by council at the very beginning of this process. I will say between draft 2 and the third draft, my job has been to make sure all of the edits that you requested were made and that they are in alignment with this resolution. From staff's perspective, I feel like that has been accomplished through this draft, but we can discuss as y'all can discuss as a commission. But I do want to make sure that this is what you feel comfortable with tonight, that when you forward it along, if you forward it along, that we are achieving their initial resolution. This is really for new readers to the plan. I wanted to be clear about how everything is set up. In Chapter 1, we do talk about what a comprehensive plan is and the process, because this is one of the very few processes that's outlined in state legislation where they tell us what it needs to contain and what the adoption process is. So that is laid out, and there's also data, which we're calling kind of like a snapshot of Ann Arbor. That's sort of our existing conditions, our major issues. Chapter 2 talks about public engagement. I do want to draw people's attention that there is only a brief summary there in the plan, but that there is a much more detailed engagement summary in the appendix. It's about 70 pages, and it outlines everything that we did up until the first draft, so about the middle to end of May 2025. Since then, we have continued to go to meetings that we are invited to, but that engagement summary currently ends at May. The vision and values is our vision statement and a description of our values, which I think also has a very clear description here of some of the trade-offs that we need to consider, in that not every single development might not achieve 100% of every single value that we have. And so that has been added to set that expectation for our residents. Chapter 4 is the crux of the plan. I would say this is where all of our goals and strategies are listed for our 3 different goal areas: housing and neighborhoods, economy and opportunity, infrastructure and services. This is framed by listing out what we heard from the community, and then key considerations are data points along with maps and really the rationale for our goals and strategies. In the future land use chapter, chapter 5, we describe the 3 categories. So we've heard from residents, some of this is still feeling unclear. I would direct you to that chapter. It also has the zoning plan, which points out what we're proposing, what we have currently, and what would need to change for us to go from what we have currently to what we propose. And then lastly is the implementation section. That's our matrix that we have discussed, but one of the newer additions is the metrics that have been added to the goals, and those are what we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. That's the data that we're going to collect and report out on and review when it comes time to that 5 years where we have to make a decision of whether to update the plan or not. I also listed here just some of the major changes since draft 1. There's 2 slides here. This is really, again, for the public. If you want to take a look at this, there have been quite a few changes that have been made over these 2 drafts. But I could call your attention if you want to see more specifically. That was an overview of bullet points, but this second bullet point here, Planning Commission edits for draft 3, this is about 20 pages worth of all of the edits that were requested. It's in tonight's packet. It's been in the packet on and off since July 1st when we started that discussion. There's also the Planning Commission's response to Council's July 2025 resolution, so you can see where in the plan we've addressed all of those. And then Legistar, again, just for a plug for anyone who wants to figure out how to find the agendas, recordings, and meeting minutes for all of these meetings. Those are all publicly available. And a plug for our engagement hub, of course. When I was an engagement specialist, I helped with my colleague get this launched. I'm very proud of it. This is a QR code if you want to scan it. It's also linked here. This is where we're making a lot of our updates. This is where the drafts are posted, the appendices are posted, where our timeline is posted, where the council resolutions are posted. So this is a great resource for anyone who wants to stay involved. I think that's the last slide. I'll leave this up though, because this will give everyone the resources that they need. So that's meant to be a quick summary of what we've done, what we've been doing over the last few months here, and a reminder to you all what you are tasked with tonight. You can see in your packet there is also a motion. That motion would be for you all to forward the draft plan as is to the to City Council for them to review and decide if they want to begin the 63-day review period. I'm going to mention a few things in between. Let's assume that there is a 63-day review period in our near future. What we're planning to do is have a comment box on the Engagement Hub on our project page so that we can collect comments that way. That way it will be a very easy export where everything is saved all together at once. There may be a few process things for us to decide tonight or potentially next meeting, but Our plan is to share those comments with you as we go through the 63-day review period so that you can see what is coming your way, and so that we could, if you all choose, to continue to discuss this during that time and take your edits as well. So the assumption is not tonight that that this is absolutely perfect and that there are no edits. It's, do you think we have provided the information you've asked for that it can be forwarded on to the City Council tonight? Any edits that you have, we can still discuss during the 63-day review period. We can take note on it along with the residents' comments that we receive and get those incorporated for the final draft.
Great, thank you. I will read the motion, and then if it is seconded and approved, we will go into discussion before voting. Is that everyone's expectation? All right, great. The motion reads, the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council authorize distribution of the City of Ann Arbor Comprehensive Land Use Plan for review and comment to adjoining jurisdictions and stakeholders in accordance with MCL 125.3801 at Sequia? What is this? Sequia, thank you. The Michigan Planning Enabling Act, Public Act 33 of 2008 as amended. Moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Councilmember Dish. We are in discussion. Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Keep forgetting my name.
I'm not forgetting your name, I'm just pausing.
Okay. Yes. One process question, I guess. How will people be notified or alerted that the 63-day comment period is a thing and where they should go? Because as you have heard, we've had a lot of concern over notification.
Thank you for bringing that up. We've already been in discussion with our communications team. We are going to come up with a plan. So we have, 13 more days to figure that out, but we do understand that outreach needs to be significant for this portion. And so I don't have exact answers for you right now, but please know that we are thinking about that and pricing things out and figuring out what the best options are.
Okay. And then one more question on the timeline. February, March versus earlier, are you taking like holidays into account?
So the 63-day review period, if it starts on October 21st, it would go until right before Christmas.
Okay.
And so I think that's probably best left for council to decide. If they want to extend that, we could extend that 63-day review period past the holidays. But like I said, during that time, there will be edits. So we would like to give the consultants January to make those. It's hard to pick the exact time frame because we don't know to what extent the edits, what those will entail. But generally, we are planning to give them most of January to make those so that it can come back to you all in February and then to council in March.
Okay. For what it's worth, I think that actually makes sense just to extend it past the 63 days, like over the holidays. I mean, maybe it's fun holiday reading for some people. I don't know. But to the extent that, we're giving a little more time, just in the interest of, more time. I would be in favor of that. I don't think the consultants wouldn't do much over the holidays anyway, so. Okay, thank you.
All right, other commissioners. Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, I'm curious about how, when this is going to appear on our agendas to think through some of that feedback, and what, if you've thought about what the most useful format for that is. I do think concepts, fine, like specific edits are the things, as I said tonight, I think that are most useful. And when I hear them, I put them through my brain thinking like, do I think that this, is in keeping, something that I would want to bring forward. So some of them may come late, and it's open for 63 days for a reason, so I don't want to like say there's nothing, but I think that there are some that we already got in our packet, and we heard tonight that were specific, that I think merit discussion potentially, and so I'm just not sure when we should be ready.
Well, we can put this on the agendas for your meetings during the 63-day review period. And then I think it's hard to plan around the comments because they're going to be rolling in continuously. But I think whatever days that we choose for it to be on your agenda, we can also include those comments in your packet from what we've received up till that day. And then at your next meeting, what we've received up till that day, so that you get a chance to see all of them. Does that sound good?
I think so. Yeah, and I'm just curious how many times you think we're gonna have this on our agenda. Yeah.
Is that something for you all to decide? I mean, from my perspective, it's going to be based on the number of edits you want to discuss and how many public comments come in. And so I don't know those numbers yet. Right,
So we could
we can pick light days that already have light agendas if you would like to add them to there.
Well, one of the things I was thinking through was whether or not we wanted to do it as you just suggested, which is sort of a rolling collection, or if we wanted to receive everything, because I imagine we still have to have a public hearing once we are finished before we send it to council. So there's probably lead up time to that. So the 63 days finish, you've collected everything and say, okay, here are all the comments, here's how we've organized them. Let's have a meeting to work through those. And then once we've worked through them, then we would say, now we're ready to send this off to the consultants for the final edit. And then it comes back. And then we have a public hearing about the final edit, and then we send it on to council. Go ahead, Commissioner Dish.
Question, if we review the comments received during, you're suggesting that we review the comments received during the 63-day comment period before they go to the consultant for incorporation into the plan?
I mean, we have to.
We must do that.
Yes, because it's our document.
We must collect them, and so it would make sense for you all to review them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're sending comments directly from wherever they come from to the consultant, because that would imply that we want the consultant to implement those comments, which we may not want.
So that actually is kind of problematic. I mean, I don't think that's truly been accounted for in the timeline. Exactly.
Which part?
That planning commission,
I view it similarly to all the emails that are in your packet.
Yeah.
Right. So it would be similar to that, except if we tried to consolidate them through the hub, it might be an Excel sheet instead of 55 different PDFs.
Well, that would be good.
That's the hope.
Yeah. So then we would need to have a meeting the earliest possible in January, because we're talking about wanting the consultants to have the month of January to edit. Yes, okay.
Commissioner Norton was going to noodle in.
Noodle.
We know.
I guess I use that word a lot.
You do.
I'm noodling on this a bit. I have some comments on tonight's draft that I would like the commission to consider. And I heard some comments this evening that I want to consider. I think some really good comments were raised that we should talk about and think about.
Can I ask a clarifying question of what you mean by that? Do you mean that you want those comments to be reviewed and a fourth draft created?
No, well, I think if we're going to meaningfully take comments and respond to them, we're going to generate a fourth draft.
But it's all a matter of timing?
Yeah, so I'm okay with, I think that I don't see fatal flaws. I know that people are not everybody is happy with where the plan is. I think it's made great progress, and we have addressed a lot of folks' concerns, but I still have some concerns that I would like us to address some more. I'm okay with, I think it's close enough to send out for public comment, but I think it would be fruitful for us to discuss it at least a couple more times while those comments are coming in, because I'm guessing we all have things that we think probably should be discussed. And I think we can do that on a rolling basis, and at some point the comment period will end, we'll have one more pass. Did anything come in that we need to respond to? So I guess I want to make sure that we are accounting for the opportunity to discuss this amongst ourselves. I don't think we need to do it tonight or before we send it forward, but I want to make sure we have some opportunity at some point during the comment period for us to discuss things we would like to see considered, and that we give ourselves enough time to meaningfully respond to the comments when the public comment period is ended, so that we can give meaningful comments to the consultant to do the final draft that will go forward.
Okay, so let me, before you, Commissioner Adams, Manager Kelly, how many regular meetings do we have between now and the end of the year?
I was just pulling that up.
I knew you were. We were just in sync tonight.
One moment, please.
Sure, thank you.
So for 2025, and we can always convert a couple of working sessions and so forth, but your next session will be on the 16th because that was converted to a regular session. But after if tonight you vote to move this to City Council for consideration, your retreat is on the 21st. The 5th, you had 1028, a comp plan subcommittee previously, but that was canceled. Once those moved to the full body, that date could be reconsidered. 11/5 is a Wednesday. This is a post-election move to a different day of the week. That is a regular session. We had an eye on bringing you bicycle parking UDC amendments at that meeting, but otherwise the agenda is currently unscheduled. There is a working session on November the 12th. There is a regular session on November the 18th. There was a request to revisit your bylaws in July at this meeting. Other than that, I don't have anything scheduled. And then December 2nd and December 16th.
Okay, so
that's 5.
Yeah, so that's...
And the 12/9 working session, which could be converted, so.
Right, so we have at least 5 regular meetings, and we could convert a working session if we needed to queue those up. So the question for staff would be what's the process by which we should use to either take the input that was received tonight, either through the packet or in person, to have a first conversation to decide what, if anything, needs to be taken up from that. How would you like to consider that?
Could I come or relay through Manager Leonard or Kelly a more devised plan on the 16th, taking into consideration right now that we have 5 regular meetings with a few more options to convert other meetings, and figure out how, if I'm understanding the commission correctly, you would like to find time within those meetings a couple of times, a few times, to review not only the comments you have now, but what comes in on a rolling basis from the public.
I do want to just pause, because I think Commissioner Mills and Norton have what they are articulating are more urgent things. So, okay, so I misunderstood what you were saying, because earlier you were like, there are things that we heard tonight that I want to discuss, and so I just want to make sure I was hearing you. Okay, so what I would like to propose, if staff is amenable, is could commissioners who have something that they'd like to see at our next meeting after the 16th, could those be shared with the commission because then it would go, if they sent it to the planning email, it would go into the public record, and then we would discuss them, so there wouldn't be any private conversation about it. It would just be an indication of the topic, so that we would know what's coming.
Are you talking about for the November 5th meetings?
I haven't picked a meeting. I'm just asking for a process. If we can use the planning email, if commissioners have things they want to tee up for a meeting post October 16th, that we send that to the email, and then you, as you have proposed, would come up with a formalized process. So you would get some indication, here's what we'd like to revisit, here's what we'd like to discuss, and then assuming we've approved things at the table tonight and council has opened the 63-day review, there may actually be comments that have come in as well that you want us to see, and so those could come to that agenda. Yes, Manager Kelly.
It wouldn't be necessary to send to planning@a2gov.org if your comments were sent in between now and a target meeting to be determined and discussed on 10/16. If they were sent to Manager Leonard and Planner Bennett, she could Ms. Bennett could compile those, and we would place into materials that would be attached to a public agenda. So it would become public by way of the agenda content.
Thank you for that clarification. There was some ambiguity when I proposed this same process during the comp plan that we couldn't do that because it would somehow not meet the Open Meetings Act. But I appreciate your clarification that
are you
this can go
referring to
straight
sending
staff.
directly to staff and copying the rest of the commission?
I don't know what I suggested then, but what you have said tonight clarifies.
Yeah, as long as there's not discussion happening within the email thread between commissioners,
Absolutely.
it shouldn't matter who is copied for awareness, but it also would be fine to send directly to staff and have staff compile, and everyone on the commission will see it when it is prepared for the agenda.
I expected that would happen, but I just, out of an abundance of due diligence in the Open Meetings Act, trying to make sure that everyone knows that the process is transparent. Commissioner Adams, then Commissioner Mills, and then we'll see where we are.
The only thing I wanted to say was the format of your compilation from, I think, draft 2, where you had typos, what I sort of think about is like consent agenda, like stuff that is substantive but likely inoffensive, and then stuff that we think is truly likely to generate some debate, like in those 3 buckets, and then maybe there's a 4th category of public comments that we've received.
Yeah.
I think that would be really helpful to sort of organize things and streamline the discussion. And if somebody thinks something on the, what I'm calling the consent agenda merits discussion, they can always pull it off.
Correct. Okay.
And then to add on to what Commissioner Adams just said, from a process point of view, I'd like to use the same process that we used for the comp plan, which was staff will bring, a recommendation for us to look at, and then if someone feels strongly, we'll do it with a motion, like we did through the process. So those will have to be regular meetings if we are taking votes. So we won't be able to use working sessions to have those discussions.
Yes. Okay.
All right, Commissioner Mills.
Already been said.
Thank you. Councilmember Dish, what are we talking about?
2 small things.
Okay.
Yes.
And which
directly
are?
into the plan. So I think there was a conversation with Mr. Chambers, who raised a question whether the timeline for making changes that support community land trust, it's in the timeline for 5 to 6 years, if that could be moved up. This conversation just happened, I think. Yes, and is that something that can be done before the comment period, or is that goes on our list?
I would think that would go on the list.
Yeah, I think that goes on the list.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and Mr. Chambers thought it could be done now. So
I don't know.
I wanted clarification.
Just for process efficiency, that would be making an entire new document for one small change that we are aware of and that we can discuss and make at a later date.
Yes, I would suggest that goes on the list.
Okay. And is there any way we could boldface or move the link to the, I don't think anyone is going to read it, but the housing literature review, it's actually really hard to find.
I know it's at the very, I clocked that as well. I think that's another edit that can be made during this.
During now, yeah.
Not
No,
now.
Later, okay, yeah. It should, maybe if it's moved to the end and then it's in bold or something, because right now you just you read the key findings and then you don't know that there's anything else because you
Maybe I'm not
over it.
understanding. You're referring to the housing appendix that staff wrote?
Yes, I'm referring to the literature review. The link to it is in, you see, and it's just very difficult to, and it seems to me that that's a Google Doc. That's ours.
No, it should be, the literature review.
Yeah, it is. So can't we move the link to it or bold it so that people find it? But naturally, when you read an overview, then you want to go into more detail, and so that's where you're looking for the link. And I just think that people are not going to find it, and I also think people aren't going to read it, so I'm not going to plead for this, but I can't find it. I was looking for it during that meeting.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
Great. So back to the motion. Do we have any more discussion on the motion to advance this version to City Council for a 63-day review? Commissioner Mills.
This is something separate that was not covered before. To be clear, that will be the 90-page, which is because it's double, something like 100.
It's a spread.
The spread, yeah. Thank you. That's the actual word. Plus the appendix. When we circulate it, it will go with both of those together.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Commissioner Weatherby.
I think this is just going to go in the comments, but is there any sort of, the appendices are difficult to follow through page-wise, and there's no real, there isn't a table of contents, there isn't, and so there's a table of contents for the first appendix, but then some of that includes some of the information. There's only a couple places in the body that refer to the appendices, and they're not quite the same. So it's just they're very difficult to follow through. I don't know if we can split the appendices out, or.
You mean for the circulation period during this comment period
that's
when we
what's
share
hard
it?
is it's definitely something that we can deal with down the way, but they're difficult to parse through, and the pagination isn't all contiguous, and it's a little bit complicated. So if we are forwarding that in addition, I don't know if there's something we can do.
Okay, before Commissioner Norton. So this is to the actual document that's going to be distributed. That was what Commissioner Mills asked. So the appendices are in it now in the third version, because I have it all here and all printed out. And so your clarification is are you asking for it to be reformatted before we send it out?
I don't, or maybe just with an inserted table of contents or something that could make it a little
that staff could do, that we don't need to go back to the.
Because I don't think it makes sense to redo it to send it, but it's difficult to.
And then you'll make that a comment for our review.
The review.
All right, sorry. Commissioner Norton, thank you for letting me interrupt.
Yeah, or perhaps on the website where it's distributed, you break it out to make it.
It is currently draft 3 and then draft 3 appendices as two separate links.
But you could do more to separate out the parts of the appendix to make it clear what's in there. If we're gonna,
right, because one of the first appendix is 75
it's a lot of pages with a lot of stuff and really hard to find anything.
And one of the chapter headings of the first appendix is the same name as one of the appendices.
So I get what you're not wanting to send it back to the consultant for massive reformatting, but this is going to go out for the public comment. We don't want to make it hard for this public to find what's in it. So whatever you can do on the website to make it clear the different parts of it, so it's easy for them to get to, would be
If
really
there's
helpful.
something we can do when we send it out for comment, to the other jurisdictions, I think how it is on the Engage site is probably fine.
Well,
But
that's probably what we will send, right?
Yeah.
We will send
A link
our
to that.
neighboring communities a
Great.
link to our engagement hub.
yeah, because Ann Arbor Townships, when I got theirs, it was in an email, and it was in our packet, actually, and it had a cover letter and then a link to the draft. So,
I think the issue is, A, with the title, as you said, the repeated title, and then the pagination starts over again, starts over twice. There's the engagement, and then the data appendix, and then the lit review appendix. There's 3 paginations.
Okay, I think if this is just a formatting pagination issue, I can
Yes.
try to get this fixed before the 21st.
That is great.
For when it circulates.
And if it gets any more complicated, then just leave it the way it is, and hopefully boldface or something for the link to the lit review appendix, because I just think nobody's going to see it.
Okay.
back to the motion. All right, seeing no discussion, are we ready to vote? Manager Kelly, are you ready for us to vote?
I'm ready.
Manager Kelly, would you please do a roll call vote?
On the motion as presented, Commissioner Norton. Adams.
Yes.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Abrams.
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
That carries.
The motion carries. Thank you, everyone. This brings us to item number 12. I know it's like years of work. And then it's just a motion, and now we're on to the next thing. Here we go. This takes us to agenda item number 12, public comment on any issue. This is a second opportunity for individuals to speak to the Planning Commission for up to 3 minutes on any issue. We'll first hear from those who are present in the chambers, then we'll hear from those who are connected to the meeting remotely. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raised hand feature if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please ensure that you're in a quiet area, and please mute any background noise. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. I skipped over the whole phone access call number, so let me do that now. It's, you would call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. All right, with that, is there anyone present in chambers who would like to speak to the commission at this time? Seeing none, is there anyone remotely? Seeing none, I will close the public comment. This takes us to item number 13, Commissioner Proposed Business. Is there any? Commissioner Abrams.
I just have a question. Did you say that the Thursday, October 16th time starts at 5:30 p.m.? Okay, my calendar doesn't reflect that, so if you could just make a note to have that sent, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner proposed business? Commissioner Hammerschmidt. See, no pause.
Thank you. Along the same lines, the retreat on the 21st, can you confirm the time of that? Is it 4 to 7?
Yes, we issued a special meeting notice that should be in Legistar, but I will triple check and I will send that out via email to confirm.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's our retreat on the 21st from 4 to 7. It's a walking tour. And the public is welcome to join us. We do. I'm sorry, there's no calendar event. Any other commissioner proposed business? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Is there any discussion? Great. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.